It is 5:19 on June 10th. We are going to open this public hearing for the purpose of knowing that there is some work being done on the Walpole softball field. It is donations in the amount excess of $20,000. It's pretty phenomenal. Does the board have any questions?
No.
Okay. I am open to the public if anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment. Seeing none, I close this public hearing and we will pick it up under the regular agenda. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody in Walpole for all those wonderful donations. I think the field's gonna really look nice when it's done.
All that being said, then we will call our regular meeting to order.
I don't think we can end up that. It's supposed to book one. I don't know. I said 5:15, but no. Yeah.
We can wait if you want.
It's up to you. I think we're fine. I don't know if it's 5:15. I'll think it.
We expected him at 5:20. All right, well, we will take a short break until 5:30 and then we will reconvene and start our regular meeting. Thank you for all being here. Thank you very much. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, first things first. I see we have a lot of people here today. Does anybody want to step up and make a public comment or have something to say? All right, seeing none. I've not missed anybody behind the pole because that tends to happen. I apologize. Then we will turn this meeting directly over to Superintendent Spence.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening to the board, good evening to our guests that's with us virtually, and good evening to everyone who came out today. So we're going to start with our board honors. So today we are going to present two of our dedicated employees with the Superintendent's Award. One is Art, our Transportation Director, and I'll give a little bit more context, and then also our very shy Misty Boucher. So Art, we started off the year a little rocky with our transportation, and the Superintendent's Service Award is really for those individuals who rise to go beyond the call of duty to make sure that our system, affects and maintains the integrity. And Art, besides me and him being on the phone at 4 a.m. deciding whether or not to close the schools, he really was, on those buses, really leading by example and really helping carrying us when we had those critical shortage areas. And I believe the same is true for Misty. When I started this year off, there were employees that decided to leave of their own volition as part of business. But Misty was one of the more senior employees that stayed, and at very critical points during our year, she jumped right in to keep the ship afloat, often without me having to ask her. She did that. So I just want to acknowledge those people in our system, because this is the behind the scenes stuff that we don't always get to see, but it's individuals like that that keep us going. So we should clap for that.
Thank you, and very well said. I don't think the people behind the scenes get recognized enough, and we appreciate it. You can move directly to your superintendent.
Thank you, Brenda. So, with everything we do, we start with our mission and vision because this is the work that we have here today. And so today I just want to give us a very truncated version of this year. I've been very intentional, administration's been very intentional with the idea that this is very much so a needs assessment year. We're identifying the needs of the organization, starting with the 100-day plan, which led to the subsequent structural audit and work from there. So this is just the framework that we use to examine the system, systems and organization, that stuff that I've shared previously. But I'll keep this here to remind how the lens from which we're viewing the system. And there are about 7 areas that we look at that helps to inform where we need to prioritize our work and or resources. Part of that was looking at different data points to really identify what is actually occurring within our system. So as we're building a culture that is metric driven, performance driven, and a culture of continuous improvement, it's critically important that we're looking at our data to determine the extent to which we need to pivot, build program processes and procedures, or allocate resources. So all of this, which has been shared throughout the year, are some of the things that we utilized and looked at to really get a good understanding of how we're performing as a system, as well as the instructional priorities that we'll be building towards and implementing in the 24-25 academic year. At the same time, I had authorized and issued a Fall Mountain Guarantee, which really captures the bargain that we have with our communities. It really essentially states, and I'm not gonna read that because I can't see it, but it really says, essentially, this is what we are going to prioritize in exchange for support for our budget. And it really outlines what I believe is the foundation to providing a school system that's gonna expand opportunity and make sure that we are providing a firm, strong elementary education and the proper resources and supports to excel as students move throughout the system. And this is also shared previously, so I won't go through that, but there are about 6 tenets. And I really can't see what happened to the one that was over there. I really can't see this, but that essentially outlines, thank you, our framework. And I just want to highlight that here. Thank you. So we're looking at rigorous early elementary education, recruitment and retention of highly qualified faculty and staff, robust capital improvement plan, rigorous curricula and core content areas. And we can say that we will have math, science, and ELA curriculum, with the ELA just having been delivered this Saturday. So that's definitely a celebration for our system. Strengthening our community partnerships. It's evident through our family community engagement department. Alice Cable has been very instrumental in that work. Special shout out to the alumni and scholarship committees for their participation in graduation as well. And enhancing our relationship with our teachers and support staff. We are due for a negotiation of collective bargaining agreement, so that the work here will also inform that as well. So I'll be asking the board to adopt this framework that was proposed. But in addition to that, throughout the year, we've met numerous occasions beginning in last August to discuss what was really the vision for the system. What here did we see at Fall Mountain, and what were some of the issues, challenges, and or solutions. So what I did is, based on the questions and the discussions that we had and the data that we just recently discussed, really identified goals that I believe that the board is really going after, just based on the conversations that we had. And so what I'll ask the board to do today is to adopt these goals. There are 8 of these goals. They do not need to be implemented all at once. I hope that they're not, but adopt them, and then we can think about the implementation and whether they're going to be staggered on a year-to-year basis. But essentially, goal 1, enhance academic achievement. Goal 2, foster social emotional learning and mental health. Goal 3, promote equity and inclusion. Goal 4, strengthen community engagement and partnerships. Goal 5, enhance our technology integration. We have a really robust department here. We've done some things with our smart boards this year, so I'm really excited about that work to build upon that next year. Goal 6, improve facilities and resources. And goal 7, to ensure fiscal responsibility and transparency. And lastly, goal 8, enhance staff recruitment, retention, and development. So these are based on the conversations that I've had with you all. I took the information that you entered in your Google sheet, sort of identified themes, and I believe these are the priorities that the goal is interested in. At this hour, the board will have to decide whether or not they're going to adopt this a la carte piece, part and parcel, or collectively as a whole, and I'll deal with the implementation after that. And that concludes my report for today.
All right.
Wait, hold on. I lied. Let me take that back. Also want to say congratulations and congratulations to our class of 2024. We had an excellent graduation. Really proud of the work that was done. I thank our teachers and everyone in our system, transportation professionals, not everybody, to help get us to that moment because it helps us realize what this is all about. So just want to say congratulations to them again. And now we're done with superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, business report was included, embedded in the, agenda in the folder. So I don't know if there were any questions about that. I do need to, clarify that, last month, I talked about the, special education aid, formerly known as our CAT aid, that I wasn't sure that it was accurate, that we received $355,000, of unanticipated funds. We did. That was accurate. So that is built into the surplus that we'll discuss later, but if there are questions, I'll entertain those now, otherwise we'll buzz on through.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Okay,
Yeah, that's definitely good news.
all right, so now. Let's put up with that. Oh, I can't do this because it's all one document, right? I need that computer. Okay, so if we can scroll through the next page. Can I work this? If I get it to advance. It's not. Okay, also included in the packet was a summary of the estimated surplus. So it's important to understand that our surplus calculation begins with the amount that we returned last year to reduce our taxes. That's classified as income revenue for this year. So we, out of the gate, started with a surplus of 1.2 million, right? We have excess revenue that I'm estimating at about 200,000. That is the net of the extra funds received from the state for special education and the Medicaid reimbursement, I think, is gonna be lower. So it's gonna net out at about 200,000. You know, that might flush out. We still have to do reconciliations for tuition. So that's probably gonna change a little bit into the increase. We're looking at savings in our expenditures of about 600,000. We had previously discussed curriculum, and so those curriculum pieces are built into our financial statement already, that they've been encumbered. So those are already reflected. We also had some costs that were unanticipated that we've discussed in the past that are reflected in the financial statement. So the bottom line is that we're looking at a little over 2 million for our estimated surplus. If we send all of that back to reduce taxes, the following year, we start with 2 million as a surplus. So we keep building this cliff, if you will. I think that we should be considering some different options for using some of the funds this year. And I've listed them here. I previously suggested that we outright pay for our 2 buses, our most recent buses that were delivered within the last week or 2. If we were to do that, the cost is 235,000. There's an interest savings of 28,000. I would like to also propose that we pay off the 5 buses that we received earlier in the year and we financed over, I think, 6 years. That would be an interest savings of about $88,000. So those combined amounts is almost the cost of 1 bus, the savings that we would have if we were to pay those off now. We have some safety and environmental considerations. We've talked about the Walpole Elementary School tank removal and conversion. And that quote is at 84,500. And that's to remove the tank and to convert it. We did seek three quotes. Orimes would not quote it because they don't have the people to do the work. And then the other vendor, Dead River, said they would only quote it if they received the bid for propane for the year. We opened the sealed bids on Friday, and they were the ones that had the award. So we have requested another bid from them, but because that was just awarded today, we don't have a bid yet to compare to the 84,000.
Who's the 84,000 from?
Am I gonna say this right? Thank you. Yeah. We, during our tabletop exercise, there was a lot of discussion on how we don't have any generators within the district. So if power goes down, we're down. And we've experienced that this year as well. So I asked for some rough estimates for some generators, one in each attendance area. I did also ask for a generator, an estimate for generators at the high school. But that is gonna be a much more complex job and wasn't something that we were comfortable, that they were comfortable bidding on or quoting even, without, I think, engineering work. So that is not included on here, but I do have a generator in essentially each attendance area. I also put out here for suggestion is a replacement van for facility, for our facility guys that, you know, they run around our 11 buildings with vans, with parts and tools and what have you to do repairs, which is far more efficient than going out and troubleshooting and then having to go back and forth. So on average, we keep those vans for, I think it was about 8 years, and we had originally built a replacement into our proposed budget for 25, fiscal year 25, and we removed that when we made some choices and prioritized some things for staffing needs. We have a storage container that we rent right now monthly. It's $130 a month, and we have been renting it. We will continue to do so. Because it's used to store the stage that's used for graduation, and it's an expensive stage, and we want to preserve that. So I'm suggesting that we spend up to $5,000 and purchase a storage container, because then we can put the contents into that. Another item that I'm putting on this list here is vape detectors for the high school. This was something else that we had originally included in our fiscal year 25 proposed budget and removed from the budget when we were prioritizing items. You'll notice that really, with the exception of the safety items, all of these items are accounted for and budgeted for typically by a method that allocates across the district and isn't community specific. I did not include any building capital improvement items on here because we're still working on that plan, and I didn't feel that I had solid enough data at this time for that. And the other concern was that those items are typically funded by the community and the capital reserve. So I didn't include any items of that nature on this list of recommendations. The total of all of the items I've proposed to consider is 1.3 million, which would leave us about 738,000 to return for taxes. Of course, you can pick and choose from this list or say no to everything. What, you know, it's your call and your direction to provide. But I just wanted to put all of this out there for consideration.
Do we have an estimate? So my standpoint is, my town, Langdon, is looking at, based on the current budget that was approved, the $3 increase per mil. If we return all of this money, all the surplus, what would that do to tax rates?
And I don't have that information. It would obviously have a significant
decrease the, I just wonder
Decrease.
how much, and we don't have information, yes.
Just, do your numbers include the surplus voted to capital
I'm sorry, the surplus what?
that we voted to capital? The warrant article where the townspeople vote to return, do we do $500,000 just to the town?
Oh, no, that would actually be on top of this, thank you. That was, it was 250, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry, Jamie, I see your hand.
Sorry, I had to find the buttons because you have the screen up here. I have a question. On the lease payoff, is there a prepaid penalty on that, like 2%
No, there is no penalty on that.
on the lease purchase?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Oh, I need to get that person to do ours. I have a 2% prepaid penalty on anything we do. My other question is, I had one other one, sorry. When we discussed, and I know it's on the agenda for a little bit later, so I'm assuming we would hold off on a decision on this information till perhaps a little later in today's meeting. I believe when we discussed the projects that had to roll into the budget for this year, that based on numbers you had at that point in time, which I think was a meeting in May, each one of the districts had surplus monies within their own tax realm.
So the, Alsted area attendance and the Charlestown area attendance and the high school all have surpluses. When I look at the projected totals for Walpole, we are at a deficit of 59,000.
Okay.
And I have not had an opportunity to dive into that yet to determine why.
So that could be, then there's an encumbrance that maybe needs to be released, possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lori.
Mhm.
In regards to the generators, I do think we should consider putting generators on each one of those attendance areas. Because in the event that the power goes out, which it did this year, we at least have one building we could evacuate to and to provide heat, et cetera, in the case of emergencies. So, this year was a little challenging with the generator going out. The emergency lights, some of those things stopped working, the ability to get water, heat, et cetera.
I also want to emphasize that this is based on unaudited numbers. And as Jamie so aptly pointed out, is that there may very well be encumbrances that still need to be released.
All right, do you want a decision right now? I don't see that.
Well, no, I mean, I think you're gonna wanna discuss that, and I'm just, if you're ready for me to move on, I can keep rolling.
Make a decision on that, that's fine.
All right, so then the next item that I wanted to bring to your attention, is our, insurance situation. So, we, collect, I don't know, I've had, several people come to me at various points this last semester asking, is there a reason why we don't use Primex? Because they offer X, Y, and Z, and it would be really beneficial, but we're not members, we can't partake. At about the same time, I was trying to get some estimates from our current broker, and they were saying it was a little bit early to be able to provide us some numbers. And then we found out that Liberty Mutual, who currently carries our property coverage, is dropping us for next year, not renewing us because of our rural setting and our reliance on volunteer fire departments, which are wonderful. So I don't know why we should be penalized for that.
I was gonna say,
I know.
excuse me.
So in any case, we started looking at this further, and we asked for quotes from Kapeloff, and what they're telling us is that they are generally seeing a 35% increase on property coverage and a 15% increase on other insurances. We reached out to, Cross Insurance. They work a lot with, municipalities as well. They were going to, give us a quote, and then they decided that with the timeline, it wasn't gonna work out, so they didn't. And Primex was able to give us a proposal. And as you can see, their proposal, is total of $187,481 for next year. If, there is another opportunity for an additional, close to $5,000 discount if we, participate in what they call the Prime 3, platform. That is significantly lower than what we paid this year. We paid over 318,000, which exceeded our budget. I budgeted for a 10% increase based on conversations with, our broker. And, it's clear that would be sufficient if we stay where we're at. My proposal and recommendation is that we go with, Primex, moving forward. I provided a lot of information on Primex in our folder that I'm not showing on the screen, a summary of, reasons why and what they do, and it's a pooled group, and they work with municipalities and school districts. An interesting thing is that, we talked about the climbing wall at our last meeting. Primex has no problem with that. It was specifically excluded from our commercial insurance. Primex has no problem with, different things that, part of our CTE programs that might otherwise be a little concerning. They're used to working with schools. They provide a lot of, free training. They provide, they'll pay back, I think it's $750 a year towards CPI training, train the trainers. That's beneficial. That's a costly training. So there are a lot of little perks like that are just built in for, evidently at no cost. So anyway, so I'd like you to consider this. They have, a program, it's called CAP. And basically it's, if we sign and commit to year 2, they say that they won't increase their rates above, I think it's 8% this year. They usually offer that. We're not obligated to sign into that. And my recommendation would be that let's, at least this first year, let's transition to Primex, see where it goes the following year before we ever consider signing any of the CAP agreements. And they offer that for the liability as well as the workers' comp, insurance. The neat thing, they're pooled, a pooled group. So, they are annually looking at their actual costs and claims. And, it's not really uncommon to, get a refund or a return of funds. I think I've seen it mostly in workers' comp if you don't have a lot of claims. So there's that factor as well. So putting that out there for your consideration for a decision later in the meeting.
Jamie, did you have a question about that before we move on?
No, I was just gonna say that I would fully support this. It really feels like a no-brainer. The open markets have gone nuts over the last 2 years, and the trusts have really been able to hold tight on their increases. So I think good work, Lori. Let's definitely look at this.
Thank you.
Okay, and then this is, sorry.
No, mine's after you finish.
Okay. This is just informational. The Keene State College, the ACDA student organization at Keene State College fundraised for scores. And they, chose to award this gift to, our choir at the high school. And it's in the amount of $1,264. So in accordance with, policy KCD, gifts between 500 and less than 5,000 can be approved by the superintendent. So Christopher did approve that, and I've communicated that to the college, to the high school, so they can work with the college and get that payment. And this is just informational for you at this time.
And what was the premise for that award? They like us?
Yeah, that was not made clear to me.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, each year, well, as you know, we participate in the USDA lunch program and breakfast program. And each year we have to go through an exercise of evaluating our lunch pricing and determining whether or not it needs to be increased based on our, the expense of the program. Clearly, with meals having been free for the last 2 or 3 years, there has been no increase. I actually was looking in the system and went back to, I think, 2018 or 2019 into our applications online and still didn't see that there's been an increase since that time. I'm not sure how we've been able to manage that, but the time has come, we must increase. They do graciously allow us to cap the increase at 10 cents annually. And so we need to increase our lunch prices at the high school from $3.25 a lunch to $3.35, and at all of our other schools from $3 to $3.10. So making that recommendation, it's a recommendation, but if we'd like to participate in USDA programming, we probably should implement that. Another program that is in conjunction with our lunch offerings, it's a CEP program, which is a community eligibility program. And what it does, it enables us to offer meals free to all. We have 3 buildings that qualify for that. While we do qualify in those 3 buildings to offer free meals, it's free to the recipient. It's an additional cost to the district. The biggest cost is the risk that we take that voluntarily, that participants do not voluntarily provide income information. You may or may not be aware that our free and reduced numbers factor in significantly to the monies that we receive from the state in differentiated aid on top of our base adequacy aid. And it also factors into E-rate monies that are awarded to us and our Title I monies that are awarded to us. The state finance office has a tool, and they ran numbers for me. And if we participate with just these 3 schools, because there are ways that we could group other schools into it and participate in all of Charlestown. I think we could potentially include all of the Alsted attendance area. And then it becomes problematic when we add the high school. I'm not sure that we even qualify that, but just based on those 3 schools, which are Ackworth, Charlestown Primary, and Sarah Porter, we run the risk of losing just under $1 million in funding. What they clearly can't tell us what to do, but their recommendation is that we go back during COVID and analyze the participation rate and the documentation that was provided, because it wasn't required for the free meals. So if you have free meals, there's no incentive really to provide the paperwork. I don't have the data well organized at this time to be able to say with any confidence that I think it's a risk worth taking. While I would love to feed kids, I'm very mindful of the potential financial impact to the district. And this is just in the funding source. If we can take the number of meals that we anticipate distributing based on eligible students, and then multiply that by a 1.6 factor. And those are the number of meals that we can claim at a free rate. So we get a higher reimbursement from the state. The balance of that, we're submitting as though they were paid, and we receive the lowest reimbursement rate for a meal from the state. And we were at about 40%, I think, of the meals served could be treated as free, the rest would have to be reported as paid meals. So if so directed, I will go back and I have to do this in a really compressed amount of time, but I can go back and estimate what the additional funding from our general fund would need to be if we were to offer this. And again, we would have to, I'm just really concerned about the participation in voluntarily providing information. Because if, say I have a kid, in CPS, CMS in the high school, okay? I need to prepare and submit a free and reduced form for my student to qualify for those benefits at the high school and CMS. To do that, I need to provide household data. That household data is worthless for my students at CPS as far as funding source. So the parents and the family, they would need to provide us the document that's required to receive benefit and voluntarily complete another form to support the students that are receiving this free meals. So I'm leery of that, and perhaps I don't have a good enough pulse on our communities to, maybe you have a better comfort level that there would be compliance and working with us on that. I don't know. So that's something to consider.
Jamie, do you have a question or comment about that?
I do, sorry. Question, Lori, do we have access to the direct cert numbers for these 3 schools?
Yeah, that's what it's based on. The state actually tells us,
Okay, so they did a projection of, so my question would be, are we not participating in CEP for Charlestown Primary?
no, we're not.
Oh,
We
okay,
haven't. I don't think we're currently eligible. We haven't been eligible. They changed their numbers,
okay,
just recently.
okay. So, so based on the direct cert numbers, then is that what you're looking at on what the other exposure might be of what we might lose in title?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
because the CEP participation isn't based on income eligibility, it's.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. It's all.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of information, so thank you.
I'm sorry.
No need to apologize.
Poor
Like, I
Bill had
appreciate
to
it.
be my dummy run. so-
Does anybody have any other questions for Lori at this moment?
I think I'm
Okay.
done.
All right, that is a lot. We will take most of that into the consent agenda unless somebody wants to pull that off.
I do have one other question, sorry.
All right.
Lori, now that we're closer into June, would you please send me an updated Excel spreadsheet of all the line item expenditures so we can use it at the budget committee? Thank you.
Yep.
Are you going to want a decision from us on whether we want to apply through the CEP?
I unfortunately do need a decision on that. I have to let the state know by the 20th and an application by the 30th.
Okay, so I don't believe we have that anywhere in here.
What is the impact to the families? Like the acronyms and all this, how does that impact families if we elect to go with this new situation?
So the students, the direct cert number that's used to determine eligibility, they are already eligible for free meals. What it means is that everybody in the building can have a free meal. And I don't know, again, I haven't been able to dive in and look at participation rates during COVID to see what that looks like compared to our current participation rates. So I don't have a full scope of what that would look like. I do know that, so the state provides information and they'll tell you if your district as a whole is eligible. And if you're not, as a whole eligibly identify the school. So we are not as a whole eligible to, participate as district-wide.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add the discussion about the CEP program.
Second. Jamie,
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, Jamie T, yes, thank you.
Yes.
And yes.
Sarah Vogel, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Oh, yes, okay, thank you. All right, thank you for all that information. We'll take it up shortly. This time we're gonna move to old business. I'd like to address, first, the North Charleston Community School closure process. It's my understanding that there was a meeting this past week.
No, there was a meeting a few minutes ago.
Oh, well, that works too. Can you give us an update, please?
As far as the closure meeting went, we came up with two possible options. We're looking at, first option, the one we prefer, would be if we can convince the trustees to allow us to, we'll be out of that building by July 12th. If we can convince them to give us what amounts to an extra 12 days, we can do this with just staff members and maintenance department and volunteers. We can get the whole place cleaned out in that amount of time and have it ready for them to take over. If they insist that we be out of there by July 1st, it looks like we would have to hire a company and it might be a little bit more difficult to find out where we're gonna store all of this stuff. It'd be a scramble. I mean, when you think about it, it's just think of it as a big pile of stuff that we'd really only like to have to move once as opposed to 2 or 3 times. Because I think that the first thing that Bill said is, oh, we'll put it all into the cafeteria of Charlestown Primary. I'm thinking that they might need that building come September, or we need that space for something come September. So it's like, now we gotta move it twice. So it's like things like that makes sense. If we only, the less times we have to move it, the less it costs, all of those things. I think you already, the other piece that came out of it, I think you already said that you're gonna, buy a container for the stage. Because right now, the container that we rent from the company has the stage in it for graduation, which we don't wanna lose. I mean, we don't wanna ruin that stage. It's a good stage. There's nothing wrong with it. So we were thinking that we would buy a container to put the excess stuff from the North Charlestown School into it, move the actually put the excess stuff in put the stage into the container we now own, and then put the excess stuff into the one we rent, so that we could eventually disseminate the one that we rent and give it back to the renter and not have that bill anymore. But I think we're gonna buy one anyway, so that's a moot point. Then we'll put the stage in it.
We don't know that we're gonna buy one.
Oh, we don't know that we're gonna buy one. We're thinking we're gonna buy one. Lori recommended that we buy
Well,
one.
there was with surplus funds, that's a big discussion.
Right, yeah, but I mean, we're talking about $4,500, so I don't think it's.
It's still a discussion.
Yes, it's still a discussion, and we'll discuss it.
Was there any discussion about, helping the trustees to keep the building open since we've kind of sprung that on them?
Helping them keep it open how?
In terms of keeping electricity on, keeping the water running, that kind of thing, while they are able to find,
Yeah, I
somebody
mean,
in
we
this
can,
current year.
these are things that we need to discuss with the trustees, which I haven't met yet, so I can't answer any of that, of whether we would or wouldn't. But we need to talk to the trustees and hopefully have a walkthrough with them to see what their plans are and see what we can do to help them make this transition as easy as possible.
All right, sounds pretty good.
Also, there's the matter of a bench that's there. There's the community member in Charlestown has interest in a bench that was designed for a specific teacher.
Mhm.
They're requesting to take ownership of that bench. The board will have to either grant me the authority or grant the person a bench because it's now considered district property.
Mm.
It's at the North Charlestown School.
The,
Kevin wordsmith it. Where's my motion on that?
I'm working on it. So do you know the name of the teacher, the benches designee is?
Betty Snide.
Betty Snide.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, what's that? Are you talking about who the person was, who it's in memory of?
Yes.
Yes.
So I make a motion to give the superintendent permission to return the Betty Snide bench to the family interested in it.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
No, that's an excellent idea.
Second.
Jenny
Oh,
second.
sorry.
She was a little quiet.
She was just very quiet, and she did before I could.
I'm sorry, is there any discussion, any questions for the superintendent or anything else regarding this motion?
Is there any interest in having the bench moved to the Charlestown Primary School and continue to be a bench in honor of Betty as a district bench? I don't want to make an issue out of it, but it seems like it makes sense to ask.
Yeah, this particular community member said they have invested interest in the bench. I haven't heard anyone else that's interested in it. It's at the discretion of the board whether they want to keep it, but we'll want to keep the bench in honor of that person that was before my tenure. It does have sentimental value. I don't really have more context. I just know she wants the bench.
Well, we know that Betty Snide was very, very important to that community, for
Absolutely.
sure. So I would like to ask Chris if there is,
I wholeheartedly agree with the board that we should give it back to the family in memory of her.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I just thought it was important for us, instead of just saying, yeah, we don't want the bench, to be like, no, this is the bench was in honor of someone who gave a lot to this district, so.
she did.
So maybe in the superintendent's discussion with that family, you could bring up the fact, maybe we could find a spot for it at some other school.
I don't believe she has any interest in.
Okay, then
In
She wants the
sharing.
bench, yeah, she wants the bench back.
Well, and my understanding is that Chris, the principal of the primary school, is in support of that motion as well, so.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate the discussion. So, do you want to read the motion again? Is everybody good with it?
No, we're good.
We're good, okay. Jamie?
Teague, yes.
Yes.
Jenny, yes.
Sarah, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Thank you. And when will they be able to come and take possession of said bench?
Immediately, we'll send out correspondence tomorrow and then they can decide. We'll.
During
coordinate.
school hours?
Mhm.
All right, thank you for arranging that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking forward to more information on that coming soon, on the closure, not on the bench. Next item of business is the quotes for the conversion from fuel to propane in Walpole. We've already heard the quotes. Are you looking for an approval of a particular one, or would you like to wait to hear from Dead River?
So I would like to wait and hear from Dead River, because it's a change in our vendor, so it's gonna be a major conversion process throughout the district. And I'd like to see what they offer us, for that pricing as well. However, we're looking at using surplus monies, so I would need guidance or approval to do so if Dead River comes in less than the 84.5.
What's the timeline on them getting back to you?
Do we know?
I don't know when they come, and I wanted to get it approved before I approach them.
Fair enough.
Oh, I thought I had approached them.
Jamie?
I think we should probably get that quote and then we may be having another June meeting possibly where we could make this decision. And the only reason I say that is, is because we do have a lot of surplus. We want to make sure we treat that appropriately. So I'd love for Lori to just have a little bit more time to look at some of the encumbrances that are sitting in Walpole to see if any of those could be released.
Could we not, you help me with this too, Jamie, could we not make a motion based on what we know now and give the CFO the authority to make that decision?
You
based
could,
on Nathan?
you absolutely can.
With the cap of, we think the cap is 84.5, will it not be more than that?
Right, I mean, that's the quote that we have now, and so if Dead River came in higher, I'm not sure that it would be worth that. There'd have to be a significant difference in service to consider it, so.
I don't know how to word this. So I make a motion to, approve a maximum of 84,500
Yes.
for the removal and conversion of the Walpole, whatever, propane tank or oil tank.
Conversion to propane.
And then give the CFO the authority to make final decision of the vendor,
Not to exceed. Not to exceed 84.
not to exceed 84,500, yes.
Thank you.
I second it.
Any further discussion?
No, I think that covers.
Pretty well I said.
Sarah.
Is there any, I know that, we're talking about this definitely coming from surplus funds, or is there a way of looking for funds that exist before we use surplus funds? We haven't had, the district hasn't had a full, I mean, the board hasn't had a full discussion on the use of that surplus money yet, and I know that there's quite a bit of feeling about the use of of those surplus funds, and I wouldn't want to start committing surplus funds just automatically without having the board be able to have that discussion, because I think it's very important for us as a board to move forward with a decision that we've made, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, we need to make this quick, so, okay, yeah, you certainly. I mean, I'd like to do it deliberately, so.
So with the structure that we have, I don't have the option to ask for a public hearing to tap into capital reserves. That would have to go onto a warrant article for next year. Right now, my snapshot of Walpole is that they do not have surplus or extra funds to cover it. I mean, so surplus, while I understand your concern, this is not specifically budgeted for, nor at this moment are there funds within facilities in Walpole that I can just like ask to reallocate. So we're looking at the financial picture as a total and our estimate for the end of the year.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm recommending from surplus, and that's why, I mean, computer died. We had looked at, by location, just to see if there was a way to absorb that within the Walpole budget as it stands. I would still seek approval for it because it is not budgeted and it's a big item and.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to have the.
Kevin?
So, I completely agree with you about the surplus. I want to have that full conversation. I'm different with this one because it is emergency and we have to do something. It's not like we can wait and it's just gonna create a bigger problem. So I'm kind of separating this out of that surplus fund problem, because this is an emergency.
It's a good distinction.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I just,
We
thought it
gotta
was
talk about
important.
those things. No, it is important, so thank you. Jamie, yes.
So yeah, thanks Kevin for bringing that up, because even though we discussed it at the last meeting and Bill spoke to the fact that the interstitial wall of the tank may be a bit compromised, a lot of people may be listening or watching the meeting, may not remember that. So if something, God forbid, does happen and you have an oil spill on the ground, it will negatively impact all of our towns by soaring our rates. It's very expensive to do oil spill cleanups. So it is a bit different, but thank you, Sarah. Your point is not lost, that we want to be sure we do the prudent thing.
Thank you.
All right, so on the motion, Jamie. I'm sorry, hold on one moment. Can we reread the motion?
Oh, no, I have something written here.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Save this
So to approve the use of surplus funds for the removal and conversion of the oil tank in Walpole not to exceed 84.5, with the CFO to make the final decision on the vendor.
My only question is, are you considered a CFO or should we put business?
Or
in?
business
Yeah,
administrator.
business administrator.
Yeah,
That's all.
was just
I mean, it's one and the same, but my title.
Are we good with that? Is that,
Yeah.
was it the intent? Okay.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, how do you vote?
Teague votes yes.
Levesque votes yes.
Jenny, yes.
Sarah, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Thank you for bringing that to our attention and getting it taken care of so quickly. Bill, let's finish you. Thank you. All right. It has been brought to our attention that there were some questions on the Charlestown reconfiguration and construction discussion. Is there anybody here who wanted to discuss that?
I'm sorry. What was that?
There had been a question from the public regarding the Charlestown reconfiguration and construction discussion.
Oh,
Alyssa?
You want me to provide the context?
Hold on. Yes, Jamie.
So I would, I don't know if the folks who are interested in that are able to be with us tonight or not. But I would point to folks that we had a very in-depth discussion about that with our business administrator, Lori Schmidt. Lori I don't remember what meeting it was, whether it was the second meeting in April or maybe the first meeting in May, where we discussed the total dollar amount that was not able to go into the ESSER funding because, you know, some of the procedures and processes in the switchover between staff leaving and staff coming perhaps may not have been followed through on as it needed to be. But I would ask people who have concerns about that to please revisit that meeting because it was a very in-depth, good discussion. And the monies that are being covered that didn't fit into ESSER, the Charlestown attendance area, and Lori, correct me if I'm wrong in remembering this, the Charlestown attendance area's budget had enough money in surplus of their own to cover those expenditures.
That's all accurate. It was the first meeting in May as well as I think the second meeting in April.
Kevin.
I'd just like to go, I went through the articles of agreement as well as our policies, just to make sure that I felt that we were doing the right thing and not going against any of our policies. And in terms of the articles of agreement, there is no mention of how federal funds or grants are allocated. So we don't have anything in our methods to say how income is allocated, only how expenses are allocated. I only found two policies about expenditures, policy DJ, which talks about funds, and that gives the right of the superintendent and the CFO to make purchases. So I don't think we have to have the board doesn't have to be involved in every purchase decision, as well as policy DAF, which is more about how we administration of federal funds. And in that policy, it only states that we have to have sealed bids for single items over $250,000. So none of our single items for that project exceeded $250,000. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
They were all smaller expenditures. So I don't see in any way that that the board didn't follow policy in that process. So that's just my stance on the questions about the Charlestown reconfiguration.
I see there's a thumbs up from Jamie. Does that mean thumbs up or do you have a comment?
No, it means thank you, Kevin, because that was great.
Okay. So is there any other questions from the board? Is there anybody from the public who came to ask a question about that?
I mean, I think with Kevin's explanation, unless somebody has a specific claim they want us to address, we'd be spinning our wheels.
I want to make sure that everybody is
Yeah.
very comfortable with the process we went through. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, thank you very much. We will move on to the RFQ for the Walmart Regional High School Property Survey update. Joe and I met, either last week or the week before, and they also run together, my apologies. With Lori and Bill, as well as Chris Spalding and Randy Rhodes. And we had a terrific meeting. We sat down, Chris Spalding had brought in some really great examples. We were able to look at them. We were able to set some dates. We were able to set some meetings. Set a goal of, know exactly what the purpose of the committee was for, which was to find the company who can survey this property and create the documents that we need to move forward as the community voted in March. So it was an excellent meeting and more to come very soon.
Yeah.
Yes,
Will we need a special meeting at some point to approve, or do we need to approve the RFQ?
I don't believe we need to approve the RFQ. It was approved, certainly through the vote of the people in March, it was approved. Did the document go to the board members as well, or just the small committee?
Just the small committee, because I was waiting for feedback. I know Chris indicated he had some changes or clarifications he thought would be good to add, but I haven't received them.
Okay.
I haven't received them.
Yeah, and I assumed that once we had the RFQ ready to deliver, so that, and the whole idea behind this was so that all of the firms that want to bid on this would all be on the same page, all looking at the same data, so that make bids that may, we could pick the bid. And I just assumed that once we had that RFQ where we wanted it as a committee, we would share it with the whole board.
I would like to clarify for everybody listening that RFQ stands for Request for Qualifications. It is not a monetary bid of any sort. It's simply looking for the right company to do what we need.
They have to be qualified to do all of the things that end up on that list.
Yes. All right, are there any questions regarding the RFQ and where the committee is? Jamie?
Just one comment. Thank you for explaining what RFQ means, Alyssa. I appreciate that. Sometimes in an RFQ, a company will send you their hourly rates and things like that, so that you can compare both of the companies to just see like what their billing rates might look like. So sometimes that kind of information is included. That's all.
We may include it, but it's not in our information, so it would be extra at this point. But all information is good information.
So I like that.
All right, then moving on to our consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, we can take this as a block, but I do believe there are people in the room who would like to speak to some of these things. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah, sure.
Is there anyone here who wants to speak to the overnight trip for the band? I'm not quite sure where everybody's. How about the overnight field trip for JROTC to Washington, DC? No? The overnight field trip to Washington, DC in spring of 2025? All right. Then I think everything is good. I will accept a motion to accept the consent agenda. Oh. Yes, sir.
There is a trip that I'm here to speak on, which is a trip in November.
That's on
It's
the
under the
consent
next-
agenda.
Oh, I'm deeply sorry.
No, no worries.
Just want to make sure I'm here for a reason.
You will have your moment. Thank you. All right, I will ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Jamie?
Sorry, I do have a question. So is that not part of the consent agenda, the one that gentleman wants to speak to?
It's not, it's under the action agenda.
Oh,
There are
okay,
two-
sorry. Thank you. Okay, Teague, yes.
Levesque, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Vogel, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Okay.
Change my name every time, yeah. Sarah Vogel, Sarah.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, under the action agenda. I would like to ask for a motion to accept the donated funds for the Walpole girls softball field as per our public hearing.
So moved.
Go ahead. Is there any further discussion? Jamie?
Teague, yes.
Rebecca, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Sarah, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes, with gratitude. All right, Mr. Meeks, we are to your part in our agenda, the Violet's Middle School DC trip.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize for just jumping in there.
You're-
before. I didn't,
That's okay.
We appreciate enthusiasm.
yeah, and I have a lot of that.
Yes.
We've noticed.
Yes. So, my colleagues here, this is Mr. Crawford. He is a special ed teacher at Violet's Middle School. We have Jody Brown here, who is a school counselor, also at Violet's Middle School. And my name is Richard Meek, and, I'm here to talk to you about American Heritage Tour. And I've actually talked to a handful of you before on this exact same subject. So what has happened is since January, we have had students sign up for a trip to DC in November 4th to November 8th of this current year. We have 37 students from towns of Alsted, Langdon, and Ackworth, which those 37 students make up about 75% of our building. I have those lists of names of students that I can hand out to you if you guys are interested. On this list represents the student, also the town that they are from, and also the projects that they are going to be presenting on when we travel. Now, we have 37 students signed up between 7th and 8th grade. Every single student in the 7th and 8th grade, that's next year's 7th and 8th grade. So they're currently 6th and 7th graders. They have all had the opportunity to sign up. This is including the focus program in the back of Violet's, which is now currently sitting there. So all students in our school had the opportunity to sign up for this trip. We have never had this many students sign up for the trip before.
This is huge.
It is a huge percentage of the school. It's the largest I've ever taken. Back in the day when I used to travel with the Y, we usually had about 50 to 55%.
Yeah.
Having about 75% is fantastic. Now, with the cost of the trip being astronomical compared to what it used to be with the Y, it is now $1,442 a student. Back before COVID, my last trip with the YMCA was $900. Because of that reason, we have reached out to about 11 different organizations to help students who could not afford the trip have a little bit of alleviation of the cost, and certain organizations such as the VFW, the American Legion, the VFW Auxiliary, the Sons of the American Legion. We have reached out to the Ackworth Trust, the Langdon Trust, the Alsted Historical Society, just to name a few. We also had students do fundraising, and they worked and really did well selling, and they raised about $2,000 just individually. So they're going to either use that to pay down their trip, or they're going to use that as fund money when we travel. So that number, 37 students, represents a lot of students who could not have traveled without those monies being acquired. They are understood that they are going to be writing thank you letters and doing presentations to those various organizations, and they totally jumped on the chance. So we are going to be traveling this November to several different locations. I do apologize, I don't have enough copies, so you're gonna have to share.
I don't blame you.
So we are traveling, starting on a Monday morning. We are leaving incredibly early. Incredibly early on Monday, which is November 4th. And we are going to be hitting the road to Philadelphia. I used to work in Philadelphia. That's where I actually started my teaching career. And from Philly, when we get to Philly, we're going to be doing pretty much everything we can in Old City. We're going to be doing the Liberty Bell, Betsy Ross's house, Alfred's Alley. We have time tickets to the Independence Hall, US Mint, Ben Franklin's home, printing press shop. A lot, quite a bit. Those little kids are gonna be exhausted, but they're gonna be very happy because we're gonna be on that bus for about 6 hours before we even get there. After that, we are gonna be getting back on that bus and then heading down to Washington DC to check into our hotel. The second day, Tuesday, we are gonna be hitting the Smithsonian's. Now, those particular orders are not yet established based on availability of what is open and what we are able to access. But those Smithsonian's that we're gonna be having kids do presentations on and then be able to have basically free time in will be the Air and Space, American History Museum, the Native American Museum, African American History Museum, just to name a few. Students have a choice of being able to go into the Holocaust Museum. I would never force a student to go into that. And there are two different versions of that, if they so choose. One is called Daniel's Story, which is, I would feel comfortable my 8-year-old son going through that. It's a child version, a childhood view of the Holocaust. The other version of the Holocaust Museum it's very well done, very powerful, but it is something that I would not expect a student to want to go see if they did not want to. So that will be an option available to us when we travel, and that will be up to the students. We're also going to be doing night tours in our time in DC. We'll be doing tours at night, so all the monuments and memorials will be lit up like Christmas. We'll be doing World War II, World War I, Korean, Vietnam Wall, Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument. It is a lot, but it is spread over 3 days. Now, this is something that I was not able to share with you when we were washing your car very badly the other Saturday.
You did an excellent job.
Well, I didn't do it. I was able to talk to Mr. Levesque here about a trip a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago.
Whenever you had, it was a Saturday.
Yeah, we're doing a car wash with the student council. But we just recently heard back that our students were accepted at Arlington National Cemetery to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. So that's fantastic news. And currently we have students writing an essay contest to be able to qualify for that. That essay contest is being run by the 4 of us. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry to do this. Our 4th member is not here. Alexis Sibillion, who's our English teacher, is not able to make it today because she's dealing with washer and dryer issue on her rental properties. I don't quite know why, but it's a significant issue. I don't know if the house is full of subs or not. But we were just able to get that notification a couple weeks ago. So students have been throwing themselves into writing that competition. Out of 37 students, we have about 12 students who are interested, and that's the problem. There's so much interest, we only can have 4. I mean, I'm pretty good at talking to people, but I cannot sweet talk the Army to allow more than 4 to do it. So that essay competition comes to an end on Wednesday of this week, the 12th. From Arlington, we are also going to be traveling to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is the largest battlefield in North America during the Civil War, about 50 square miles. We'll be doing a bus tour and a walking tour of the various sites across the battlefield. And the kids will have a very, very hands-on personal experience while we're touring that battlefield. Then on our last day, Friday, we are heading north, going back through Philadelphia and going to Valley Forge. And then we are dropping off a bus of exhausted chaperones and students at Vilas, probably, I can't promise anything, but probably about 9 o'clock at night. So it's a very fast trip, 4 nights, 5 days. It's very intensive. We have a lot of support from our 3 towns, a lot of outside interest from these different organizations. And be very frank on this matter, we have very excited students. Every day they're asking questions about it. They're very excited about traveling because they have older brothers and sisters that have traveled. I've taken their older brothers and sisters traveling before. Mr. Crawford has actually gone with us before with the YMCA on our Boston trip, known as the New England Heritage Tour. This will be Mrs. Brown's first time traveling with us, but she's traveled with other schools in the past. And Mrs. Billion traveled with us back in 2002 when we took our very first violence group after COVID. And that was also with Mr. Crawford, and Mrs. Sibillion has also traveled with our Boston trip just this last fall. So we have a very, very crazy staff who's willing to do this trip, who have sacrificed their time to do this trip. And I mean, I can't thank you guys enough. I can't take 37 kids by myself, and I really appreciate that. So I'm standing here today because we have support from our students, we have support from our families, we have support from our towns, we have support from our teachers in our building, and now I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, for your support. This is a trip that almost died because of COVID. I don't want it to die a second time. And that's why I'm standing here before you today. So if you guys have any questions, I know I've been talking a mile a minute.
What's the cost again?
$1,442 per student. because we had such a large number, that price has originally dropped. It's about $1,300. We have about $15,000 in donations from those different organizations, plus $2,000. Now, $15,000 isn't equally distributed to the kids. We make choices, tough choices based on students who would not have been able to travel without the money.
If someone wanted to make a donation, how do we do that?
That's a great question. We have students who are still currently paying off the trip. We have about 9 families who paid off the trip completely, but they have GoFundMe pages, amazingly, through the Explorica company, which is what we are using. So a lot of what we have used in the past is being carried over from my experience, our experience through the Cheshire YMCA that used to run the trip completely. We reached out to World Strides 2002, and we used World Strides again this last fall to go to Boston, but their price wasn't competitive enough, so we're using Explorica. So Explorica gives the kids GoFundMe pages, so you could pick a particular student, or you could donate funds and we can distribute it to the families that are still trying to pay off the trip, or who we know are needing it more so than others.
Are those links to those GoFundMe pages on the Viola's website?
No, this is a non-school sponsored trip, but we are
At this moment?
at this moment. That's why we're here. I have not had nothing is on the Viola's website
Okay.
except for announcements. The announcements have been simply basically things that normal non-school sponsored trips like the ski programs and the 4-H have used to distribute information to our students. It's exactly what I have been doing. So individual students have their own websites that you can access that way. So if you know a particular student, I can hook you up with them.
Okay.
And then send it out. One student actually set up her GoFundMe page, and then the next morning, I got a call from the mother, and she said, "Thank you very much for giving us one of the donations." And I go, "I haven't done it yet." Somebody paid anonymously her entire trip. So there's a lot of support in our community for this trip. I'm sorry, I've been talking a lot. Any other questions?
Lori?
Is that, okay,
Yeah,
so,
you're good.
you said that you're using GoFundMe pages with, another entity?
Explorica.
So, Explorica, so if,
That's the same company that the high school uses to do their European trip.
right, so when a donation is made, does it go directly to them to pay on
It-
behalf, or does it go to the family?
It goes directly, all the way that we have been doing the funds is that the funds go directly to the student's account.
Right.
So
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily go to the students, it goes to the student's account, so the trip is paid down.
Okay, so it doesn't flow through the school at all?
Correct.
That's what I'm.
None of
Thank you
the,
for clarifying.
they do not trust us with money, wisely so, my wife doesn't either.
It's not what I was suggesting.
Yeah, no, but I understand what you're saying.
Right.
So having that third-party entity is incredibly beneficial. Their insurance covers us, they handle setting up the hotels for us. They also have hotel liaisons, so anything that is an issue in the hotel is handled by Explorica or World Strides as it did in the past. So if the hotel room has a cracked sink, they check on the room before our kids get in there, so our kids are not blamed for it. If there's an issue with the bus, Explorica handles that. So that is why we reached out to them, because we're only 4 people. They have been incredibly helpful with managing the hotel issues. They've been very helpful with managing the bus issues. And also, if there is some kind of security risk at the sites, that is directly given to us by, they call them chaperones and group leaders. They are people who work for Explorica, work for World Strides, who are experts inside that particular city. So we're getting a new one, and we get a World Stride representative in Philadelphia, then we get another one in DC, which we have for 3 days. Then we get another one for Gettysburg. Now, because Mr. Crawford and I have our history backgrounds, Mr. Crawford is also a licensed social studies teacher, as am I. Plus, we have Mrs. Brown, who is SEL teacher, plus Miss Civilian, who is our English teacher. We all have that connection with the students, and we could do this without those chaperones, but we don't know traffic. We don't know the ins and the outs of the cities. And to be quite frank, I was never very good at driving Philadelphia. So having that additional security gives us peace of mind so that we can do our most important job, which is taking care of those 37 kids.
Thank you.
Thank
Are there any questions from Mr. Meek or any of the other chaperones?
No, just thank you for your time and effort in putting all of this together.
It is a labor of love and it's quite a fight.
It's gonna be great for, well, I shouldn't say this, but it's gonna be great for these 37 trips.
It will.
Sounds like an awesome trip.
We're very proud that we can give it to them. This opportunity.
Which brings us to the reason you're here.
I make a motion to approve the Violet Middle School trip to, where are we going?
All these places.
All those places.
I would say just refer to it as American Heritage.
Heritage Tour on November 4th to November 8th, 2024.
As it,
Pending the, that you get us the, field trip request, field trip request.
That can be done.
I second it.
Jamie, do you have a question?
I do. I thank you, Kevin, for making the motion. I think within the motion language, we need to adjust it a little bit to say that we are going to approve this as a school-sponsored trip. That way, there's no, I believe that's what we had discussed. And that way that there's no gray areas with allowing our students and teachers to have that time off during regularly scheduled programming. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll amend the motion to include the words school-sponsored trip.
Thank you.
Will you second the amended motion?
Yes.
All right, I also want to clarify that we will be amending our policies for trips like this.
Can I say something else?
Please.
If there's any policy changes or any conversation about these type of trips, having the people who actually go on these trips in that conversation would be incredibly respectful and supportive. So we would love to have a hand in creating whatever is done in the future, because we are the boots on the ground. We're the ones that have been doing this. We're the ones that brought it back.
I appreciate the offer for sure.
Keep providing this for our students. They come back more mature, more worldly. And it's just, it's great to be able to see generations go through. I'm sure that you all had kids go on this trip. I've went on it myself when I was a kid.
Someone kicked off mine.
That is not good information to bring to this. But unless it, encourages you to look for the ways that children might try to get kicked off.
I mean, I can speak on that from personal experience. Most of my education in history was not done in the classroom. I was lucky and unlucky enough to be forced moved across this country by my father's job. And I'm doing the same thing to my kids, but I'm staying in Halstead. But I would like the opportunity to take our kids from Langdon, Ackworth, and Halstead to as many places our families' parents will let us do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, on the motion, Jamie, how do you vote?
Teague, yes.
Lebec, yes.
Jenny, yes. Vogel, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing what the kids come back with.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
All right, Edward. Forgive me for saying so. Does anybody need a break? We've been sitting for 2 hours and 25 minutes.
I said plow through.
Plow through? Okay. In one moment. All right, at this time, could we have, I believe, Bill Nicky discuss an unvoted?
Hoping
hoping Kevin could stay around and make this presentation for me. So I believe you all have, received a request for a new position, which is, for an HR employment and benefits specialist. And what I would say, first off is, I'm mindful and respectful of the needs of my fellow administrators, some of whom are here tonight, some of whom aren't. We all have resource needs, and I'm conscious of that as I bring this recommendation from the board. You have received the rationale for adding the position. Just very briefly, the past 6 months, I have sort of gone about getting my arms and my head wrapped around our many processes and policies, our many benefits programs, our how we recruit, how we hire, how we process folks through our system. And it is a very transaction-heavy environment. And I provided some of this information to the board, but it's both transaction-heavy and very labor-intensive. We have to work with multiple platforms, multiple applications, and we have various compliance requirements that affect the workload. We have several different annual benefits enrollment periods that are determined by different classifications of our staff. We have a retiree open enrollment period that we're in the middle of right now that has been a major challenge, principally because Health Trust is getting rid of the plan that about 80% of our retirees are on right now and converting that plan to a Medicare Advantage plan that they will automatically roll over into as of January 1st. That's required many conversations that have been in some ways fascinating, but also time consuming. But that all goes to the philosophy I've tried to have in this position so far, which is to be super responsive, that every transaction is an opportunity to build a relationship. And it has been a pleasure and a challenge to deal with that. But most of what I'm doing and have been doing over the course of the past 6 months is in the employment and benefits processing area. It's getting more complicated, not less. And I feel pretty strongly that in order to get to goal number 8 that Dr. Spence spoke about earlier, where we had a chance to enhance our recruiting effort, which I really, at this point, have not had much time to do at all because it's all been processing-based hiring as opposed to getting out in front and having the time to work with the administrators to actually recruit candidates. We're not going to be able to get to those kinds of things, enhancing retention, enhancing the development of our people, enhancing talent acquisition. So I think it's really important to have this position so that we can realize the aspiration of that particular goal, which I think is super important to supporting the school district and our administrators and our staff, and by extension, our students.
So I want to expand on that a little bit. So when I hired Bill, I hired him because he had a background in recruiting, retention, from his work in the private sector. And what I need Bill to be able to do is to really work at a conceptual level to develop that framework that's going to, one, recruit, retain, but also and within retention, we'll talk about employee satisfaction and other things. What becomes challenging is his ability to operate at that level when there's so many tasks that he's working on, and he's too granular for what I hired him to do, to be frank. And it's not anything with Bill, it's just a consequence of the volume to which he has to address on a day-to-day basis. So having this position will help to allow him to free up some of that management a little bit so that we can really become more aggressive with our effort for human capital. That is, as I seen, as I stated this again, that is one of the biggest threats to our organization is our ability to recruit, as it is for every other system in New Hampshire right now. So essentially, there's an arms race. Systems are getting very creative with how they're going to attack the scarcity in the marketplace, and I need to utilize his skill set to do so. this position will allow me to tap into that side of his skill set.
One last thing I mentioned is, that maybe going through your mind is, okay, well, we've got one HR person for an organization with close to 500 people. So if you look at other districts, and I've got data that's about 1.5 years old on this, most districts our size has had 2 to 2.5. There were a couple out there that had 1. But generally speaking, that's kind of what that looks like. The other thing I would tell you is, and you know, everything's on the internet. If you Google HR headcount, what you'll find is that a common ratio is around 1 HR person to 150 people.
Common or recommended?
But it's common that it would be around, the recommended is 1 to 100. So the actual is closer to 1 to 150 and around 200. So I think we're within that framework, asking for a second position. I'm happy to entertain any questions or concerns.
I have a question.
Please.
I mean, I guess it's a question, statement, question. I guess I would be interested in learning more about what this other person would do or what you would do with this other person to kind of address the current climate issues that we have now. I mean, I'm hearing a lot about retention or about recruitment, which absolutely is part of the equation, but I would like to hear a lot more about what we're gonna do to retain people. Because in my mind, it's kind of 2 sides of the same coin. If you're gonna bring people in, you gotta have a reason to bring them in and you gotta keep them, right? And we seem to have a problem keeping them.
I can address that. So I had a meeting last week when I met with our special education department that has really been strapped because there's an imbalance in the caseload. And that's a direct consequence of there not being enough hands in the pot to distribute the workload evenly, with some cases being more severe than others. So by us being able to actively recruit, that addresses one immediate need. And it also helps us to move the work along. We're really lean. We're very lean. And even especially at the central office. So in addition to, and I believe, Bill, that you submitted the job description things, right? We forwarded that information. So we have a job description, a function, et cetera. In addition to that, there's another function of the HR position, which is active investigation. So when you have inter-employee conflicts and things like that, I need to be able to deploy Bill to the building level as necessary. Because what happens is it spreads my attention thin where I need to be directed elsewhere. So we're not able to operate as efficiently. But in that job description, it speaks to some of that, some of those processes that they would free up so that we can deliver to the board. This is our plan for recruitment and retention with the understanding that there's a scarcity of resources. There's a market analysis that I would expect Bill to do when we're looking at where we fall and bring people in our organization to make sure we're competitive. So there's a lot of other functions that I would like to tap in, and this position will allow us to do that while also monitoring our school culture and climate. And I recently issued a survey for school culture and climate. So we're not, we have some work to do, but this is not dire. Sometimes I think, 1 or 2 people becomes everybody. And if we're looking at the data really hones in from an organization standpoint, 30,000-foot view, what is actually occurring. So I got the quantitative metrics and then going to speak to people directly to hear some of those concerns. It really comes down to recruitment of parents, which impacts the teacher's workload, as well as other special educators. So
When do we get to see the full data from that climate survey?
I haven't deployed that. I'm still mining through that data ourselves. So I just issued the disaggregated data. So there's more mining that I need to do right now. I'm looking at the commentary and things like that. But I will send the board an email, the quantitative part. I can send that from the district standpoint.
What was your rate of response, do you know?
I would say we had about half of our teaching workforce, and then for our support staff, I would say maybe about 1/3.
Okay.
So the extent to which those statistics are inferential and can be inferred to the larger population, I gotta look at who actually disaggregate, who filled it out, how many counselors, et cetera, et cetera.
Which would be something that I would be helping you with.
Yeah.
If I had the time to do that. I mean, the job that I'm filling is basically, in many ways, the job I've been doing around processing benefits and the hiring and things of that nature. So when I interviewed, we spoke a lot about the things that Dr. Spence is talking about, so it's an aspiration. I think the district has, and it's a personal aspiration I have as well.
Jamie, want to ask your question?
Yes, and I'm going to preface it because sometimes people can tell me I can be harsh. So I'll preface it with all due respect, okay? And I've worked in this environment for 20 years. So I totally understand, Bill, what you're saying about the challenges with HR, and it's gotten worse, since COVID and the massive exodus of people who just couldn't handle these types of positions anymore. Do you feel that some of the challenges, though, that you're facing right now, having being new to school districts, that some of them are cyclical, like the New Hampshire retirement system stuff, or the health benefit stuff, those changes at their levels, those are cyclical, right? So they're going to calm down a little bit. So that's one of my questions. I don't disagree with you that a district our size probably should have 2 FTEs. We have 2 FTEs where I am now. And then I have a question after that for Dr. Spence regarding the school culture and climate survey, but I'll hold that one.
Yeah, so as I reflect back on the last 7 months and the coming 3 or 4 months, there's a pretty significant portion of the time that I've spent on the learning curve in terms of some of these processes. Right? So, I've had to develop some level of expertise, at the expense of the people that I've been working with on all of these transactions. So there is some of that. There's also, I think, an opportunity, going back to, I think, the first meeting that I attended, where we talked about HR information systems and ways that we can use technology to improve efficiency. And that's another aspect of where I need to focus over the next year, is to get to the point where we can spend time figuring that out. Our sense at this point is, we've got to really maximize how we're using infinite visions and some of our other technology that we have, because bringing in a new system is just going to be super expensive and super time consuming. So to get to your point, there are some efficiencies, I think, that will be created as I go up that learning curve and hopefully peak on it. Still the volume of transactions is going to be more than one person coming in can handle. And so I'm still going to have and want to have my hands in that pie. But I really think we need 2 people in the short run and probably in the long run as well. If technology allows us to cut back on that in the future, that would be an interesting thing. But I think we're ways away from that kind of decision.
Thank you for that, Bill. If I could, Madam Chair, a follow-up question for the superintendent.
Can we hold that for one quick moment?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, so, I'm in support of this, but my concern is the funding source is savings from the changing insurance providers, which is like 2 agenda items down the list. So, once this discussion is finished, I'm gonna make a motion to table this until after that discussion, we can bring it back up, take it from the table and then vote on it once we have approved changing insurance providers, because right now we don't have a funding source at this moment. We might have one in half an hour.
Thank you. Jamie, please do ask your question.
And this could be a question to fit wherever. So we did a school culture and climate survey, and I know that we do a lot of surveys where I am, and we've done a lot in the past there. So my question is this: when you did that, did you do it out as being truly anonymous? Because I know that over time of doing, and you've done more, probably 100,000 more than I have, but I know over time that if they're not considered truly anonymous, sometimes people won't fill them out because they have fears. So I'm just curious if it was done as truly anonymous, or were you collecting email addresses?
So no, it was done completely anonymous. That was shared and instructed in the guidelines for the survey. We keep the IP address and things like that. And I think those fears, you know, I received emails, I spoke to teachers directly who had those concerns, who did actually complete it, but they just wanted reassurance that, you know, particular data points wouldn't be shared, so, but yes.
Did they identify their position?
We collected demographic, data.
I just, as somebody who works in a school,
Mhm.
that's not anonymous then to me. Cause you're gonna roll it down, you know, you can, just for future reference, I think if we have people tell their positions, you are kind of showing your cards, right? I mean, there's
Well-
only so many people that are counselors, for example, or.
Yes and no. So I'll say yes so the data that's shared, I just want to be very clear, is in the aggregate. So we're looking at quantifiable statistics. So let me talk a little bit about the survey. The survey is a perception survey designed to assess any one person's perception on any particular topic at this particular point in time. The extent to which I believe that, the world is rainbows at this time, and it was issued on a Likert scale. Strongly agree, because that's designed to assess intensity and feeling on this particular thing. Doesn't mean it's actually occurring, it's just the perception of what occurs. And because those answers were shared in the aggregate, there's no demographic or data other than a pie chart that says 5 teachers, 5 counselors, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the yes to your question comes into the comments, which I'm the only one who has seen and will see those comments.
The board won't see those comments?
I'm identifying, so what I'm doing with the comments is I'm identifying themes and I will share general themes, but I've assured people that I wouldn't share the specific comments verbatim, just themes that came out in the comments.
Thank you.
Well,
Are there any other questions concerning the unbudgeted position?
I don't feel like, just to be clear, I don't feel like I have enough information to go either way. I appreciate what you said, but I can't make a vote right now.
Perhaps I missed this in the beginning. Is it another full-time position? And do we have a salary range on it?
yes.
67, I think.
So in the board document, we have the salary range and a description of the position and duties.
Okay.
That information is available.
It's in your folder.
Yep, it's in the folder.
Just for clarification, the estimated cost includes, benefits, it's not,
Okay, thank you. Do you want to make your
I
motion?
do want to make a motion. I'll make a motion to table this discussion until after, action item E, approving the change to primaries.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Jamie, how do you vote on the motion?
Teague, yes.
Yes, Joe, yes.
This is a motion to table it.
Just to move it down in the agenda.
Just yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Yes.
Alyssa, yes. Thank you. Okay, at this time, Lori. We're here to approve and acknowledge the federal funds allocation for 24-25. That was in the budget.
Do we need it?
Thank you.
Okay, so, sorry. We received our allocation for its title funds. And Title I, we are receiving 400, and these are preliminary allocations. And in speaking with a representative from the New Hampshire, Department of Education last week, she indicated that there are some districts out there that are opting out of receiving the funds, so that would be reallocated. So we expect that it's reasonable to think that we will have additional funds allocated to us, but we won't know that until July. So at this time, for Title I, we're receiving $479,978.61. For Title II, we're slated to receive $101,145.79. And for Title IV, we're slated to receive $65,559.55. At this time, we do not know, what is available to us for Title V or for IDA.
Okay,
What kind of motion do you need from us?
So I need it acknowledged in the minutes that we have fully disclosed the information to you and.
You need to vote on it, and you've done your due diligence by just saying what you said.
I think that's,
thank
I
you.
don't think you need a vote.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions regarding the federal funds allocation?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lori.
Mhm.
All right, the discussion concerning the authorization to change the district liability insurance to Primex. Thank you for the synopsis earlier in the meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Can I ask one quick question?
I'll make a
Yeah.
motion, we switch to Primex to insure us for general liability and workers' comp.
Second it, and then we can discuss it.
Yes, please, thank you.
What is the process of kind of looking at the policies apples to apples that we're not losing anything? Because I'm not saying you haven't done that, but I feel remiss in saying, oh yeah, let's do it. I don't know. I know I myself have been in those situations. I'm like, oh, well, it looks real good, but when I looked at this, I'm gonna lose a lot here.
I think that's a valid question, and I don't know, I don't know how to. I have the synopsis of the policies that we have, and I have the policies that we're losing, but nobody else gave me any additional quotes, so.
I just feel like $120,000 is just it's too good to be true without us losing something. And I don't know, maybe that's not, but.
No, I mean, like, I get free contract reviews, which I don't have with the general market.
Is it free one?
Contract reviews. So, for instance, yeah, as part of their process and, all the documentation that we had to provide, we provided a copy of our lease agreement for our location, and they have some review comments on that. But anyway, so I mean, I don't know.
Were they?
I don't know
able
how to adequately respond to your question.
And I don't wanna jam you up timing wise, but I don't feel good saying, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know what we get from it.
So they have in-house employees that can help us with claims and coverage. There's an on-site, I mean, it's really simple to use. They provide education and training for various services at no additional cost. They recently, updated their facility, so 60% of the new building consists of state-of-the-art flexible training and meeting space. We get to use that for free. There's legal and HR services that they provide at no additional cost. They have strong coverages. Their cyber resources are tremendous, and their cyber coverage and deductibles are above what you would typically have. I mean, we had difficulties getting our cyber coverage for this current year. That was one of the first things that I had to address with and help with Lynn and Nick.
Yeah.
And it cost us more. So I don't know. I'm very confident that we're not losing anything, and I don't know if Jamie can add.
Jamie, do you want to add to that?
Jamie can add to that because Jamie has Primex for Hanover, Dresden school districts. And I can tell you, Jenny, that I was actually the BA who took us away from the trusts. I did that when I was at Fall Mountain. Oh my God, it was probably in the, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years ago. And at the time it made sense, right? It made sense because at that point in time, the liability costs on the open market were much lower. But since the open market has had so many hurricanes, wildfires, just natural disasters that we've never seen, but they're unprecedented, the general liability costs have soared in the open market. And so where the trusts are able to mitigate that is because we're only being compared against school district properties within the state of New Hampshire, instead of being compared against, the whole general markets across the whole United States. So that's where the trusts, because they are New Hampshire trusts only. There used to be a second one. They're no longer in existence now because of a whole lawsuit. I used to be on that board, but so that's where, when you participate in your local school, in your local state trust, they have distinct advantages on keeping costs lower and being able to provide you with expanded services that are totally tailored to school districts and towns. They do some towns as well. They provide a lot of background services that you would normally have to pay for. And like Lori mentioned, their cyber coverage is unparalleled in the state of New Hampshire. And they've been right at the forefront of helping with that. So I understand your questions and I appreciate them. And I will fully support this for our district. I think they're the best option for us at this point in time, especially, with the difference in the cost. Usually your trusts have higher coverages per event than the market coverages are, even though an event might be very rare for us, because I don't believe we're considered a high risk district. And then, just knowing the district from before. So that's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
I appreciate that, and I just hopped on their website too, so. Thank you for entertaining me.
Did anyone else have questions or comments regarding Primex? My only other question is, do we know, we were with Liberty prior
We were Liberty
or
Mutual
current?
currently, yeah.
Have they started to give us some quotes for the next year? Are we looking at another rather large increase?
Liberty Mutual, was dropping all of our properties, and Capital Up is our broker. And they were saying that, on average, they were seeing increases of about 35% to property insurances and 15% on, other types of insurance. So I did want to mention, there is one thing that I don't know, maybe Jamie can help me with this, at a later date. With Liberty, I was able to more clearly identify, well, this is the cost of this specific liability insurance that would go under method 1 or 6 or whatever. So I might need some assistance breaking out the premium across our appropriate methods, because it's not like I'm gonna get a bill for vehicles and a bill for land and a bill for.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll break it down for you more, Lori. They're able to do that. When they give you a quote, it's usually just a high overview, but they can break down what portions of that make up the general liability.
And when does our policy year begin?
It would begin July 1 with the new school year.
Okay,
So this
And
is
the
like a
other-
right now thing.
so we are actually losing our property coverage as of,
Yeah.
Okay. with that, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion that we switch to private.
We already have it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
motion
right.
is written for.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, do you want to reread the motion, because now it's completely.
Authorization to change the district liability and workers' compensation insurance to Primex.
Perfect, thank you. Jamie?
Yes.
Levesque, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Vogel, yes. Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Thank you for your hard work on that. I appreciate all
Thank
of
you,
it.
Lori.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yes. Yes,
Make my motion to take from the table now?
yes, please.
So make a motion to take from the table the discussion about the unbudgeted human resources position.
Okay. Does somebody want to make that motion for discussion? Or do we already make that
I
motion?
made the motion, need a second, and it needs to be voted on. to take
A
from the table.
second.
Jamie? The
Yeah,
motion is just to remove it?
I just have one quick question. Because I understand Kevin's methodology on the fact that we hopefully just saved about 100 grand or more. And so that would be, part of our motion would be obviously to hope that the district financial people would redirect that to cover this cost for the HR director. My question is this, because I simply don't remember. Are they the same method, Lori? General liability and SAU costs?
So the general liability,
We just moved that.
I don't remember if it's 1 or 6.
So my question then, when we set tax rate, you'll adjust those anyway. You'll adjust the budgets accordingly when we set tax rate if they're changing from one method to another.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I could just say, Shelley, just let me know if she's online. Brendan, I don't know if you could allow her into the meeting. Thank you. Please continue.
So I still have the motion, I still need a second on the motion to take from the table.
I think I seconded.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
Jen.
still need to vote on taking it from the
Yes.
table.
Jamie,
Teague, yes.
Well, yes.
Jenny, yes. Sarah, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. And I believe we have Shelley Andrews with us now. For this purpose, we're gonna just move forward, so Alyssa, yes. All right,
So I'll make a
Discussion.
motion to approve the unbudgeted request for human resources and benefits specialist.
I'll second.
thank you. Is there any discussion on the new position? Any more questions for Mr. Nicky? All right. Then on the motion, how do you vote, Jamie?
Teague, yes.
Well, yes.
Jenny, yes. Sarah, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. I don't see her in there yet. She didn't respond when I asked a moment ago.
You should be able to speak.
Do we have you, Shelley?
Yeah, I'm speaking. Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Uh,
As we've quite a bit of discussion on this earlier in the meeting. You want to
Yes.
weigh in?
I was present,
Oh, okay. Well,
so
glad to have you. Then how do you vote on the motion?
Shelley, yes.
We got, there we go.
Thank you.
It cut out on your answer, so that.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, that.
Glad to have you. All right. Then we look forward to making your office a little more efficient. Thank you very much. All right. We'll move on to adoption of board goals. Has everybody seen the list of 8?
Just turn on one, sorry.
Thanks. I feel like I'd like to go turn them on for a walk right now. All right, does somebody want to make a motion to accept them for discussion? We wanna have discussion first. I will leave that to your expression.
So I have a question, because I was not at the meeting, I was sick during the meeting where we went through the questions about goals. And I saw the spreadsheet after the fact, which didn't like you got through everything. Do these proposed board goals align with that discussion? That's my question. Because I don't think they did, based on what I could read, but I don't, I would like someone who's actually in the room to tell me that.
My own thought is that I would like us to have another meeting and create our own goals with our own definition and present them.
I think it's a good accountability tool for both, both parties, just that we're able to, and it's a distinct beast, right? So that would be my preference as well.
My concern is that we don't have any, we have no board meetings for July. So we are not meeting and we're already starting to load, we're saying we're gonna have another meeting in June, but we're already starting to load that meeting. This needs to have time to be able to discuss. So I want to know for, Dr. Spence and I have had many conversations of his frustration with us not moving forward on his finalizing his, what's the word I'm looking for? Evaluation and establishing these goals. I know that he's very frustrated with that and I feel as if, and I've been on the board for a long time now, and we spin our wheels on making these decisions, and so I feel as if I agree that we need to have time to discuss them. And I know that for myself, my brain is getting tired at this moment. I don't want to kick it down the road to August. I just don't want to do that. And we need to set a time when we're going to finish both of those things, setting, and I'm speaking firmly, but I'm not. I just, because I know you agree with me. We need to set a time and make it so that we're doing these things and we're finishing the discussion and giving our superintendent, who I feel is doing a fine job, but it's very frustrating to try to lead without a direction. And so, I really want us to, I do think that it is good to discuss it, but I want us to know when are we going to discuss it and have a finalized, these are our goals and this is us moving forward.
Why can't, I mean, and I agree with you, why couldn't we, and I'm throwing this out as an idea, take the board input from our spreadsheet and that's our goals? I mean, it doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel. We stated them pretty clearly.
I don't think, we didn't really finish the discussion that night. We only hit, it was a long, it was a great discussion, but we didn't finish. We only hit on some of them. And so I don't know if we want to just say that those, I think we said, we did three,
which I think matched the first three
Yeah.
that Dr. Spence has put in his
Yes.
report. As board goals, we can lead with that.
We can just take the first three and say, these three are our goals, then we've got to look at the other 7, or not, 5. But when, to Sarah's point, when?
Do we do that in our workshop in the summer?
I think we absolutely have to do that at the workshop in the summer so that we go into next year with very clear, we can make those goals clear to the budget committee. We can make it clear to the public where the direction we're headed in. But for the summer and going into, the work without students in the building, I think the first 3 goals laid out by Dr. Spence are important. We weigh things against, is it good for students? Is it academic? Does it serve their social and emotional needs? And then the third was, is everybody feeling like they're in the appropriate place and can be heard?
So those would be our working goals currently, and then we would look at adding on to those, maybe at the workshop are we doing a workshop in July?
Yeah, I don't know if July, but definitely August.
Okay.
When I see the additional 5 goals here, I feel like those are not necessarily, what the board would set for the administration to do. Those are their goals.
Okay.
In order to reach our goals.
I just don't see looking at from the outside, if I'm a community member, I don't see how those goals are any different than our mission statement. So if I'm presenting this to the community as these are our lofty goals, well, that's your mission statement. What are your goals for this year? What can I measure you against? I guess that's my concerns. It just seems like restating what we've already committed to.
Right. How do we measure it?
So we can operationalize that language and say, these are metrics. I control the how. So just to add context, this year, I've been particularly concerned with collecting data, providing it to board with multiple data points at a time. And the concern is, I've reached the end of the year, we're at the needs assessment. I've got all the data that I need to make the critical decisions. And I haven't made any structural change in this district other than asking people to submit lesson plans, which they're no longer doing, to collect data, which helped us arrive at the point to which we needed curriculum. And then also the actual curriculum, which someone had to make the executive decision before the extra funds were gone and we were putting out the warrant article. But in order to move forward and for me to feel comfortable leading and managing this system, that the board, upon my interview, said, we hired you to transform the system. I want to make sure that when we start making changes, that we are all lockstep and key. And I've said this, I've said this all year long, but people start, I want to make sure that I'm working with the board. I've been very transparent about that all year long. I've reiterated, I want to make sure that my performance and my activity within the system is consistent with board expectations, so there is no gray area. I've asked for goals, I've asked for evaluation, so that I can make the informed decisions. Because what happens is when you're doing any transformation and you're changing things, people start getting a little upset. People start having strong feelings about things. So I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is consistent with what the board wants. Because the only way to make everyone happy is to stay status quo and don't do anything. And so I want to make sure my labor is aligned to what you want as a board. So if we could commit to sometime over summer, having board goals to which I can be measured against, and I can say, I will go do this. It's going to get done. Work for the board. Whatever you want is going to get done. But I need to know what that direction is. And so that I am very, very clear as to what you want. And so I work in that direction. So that's just how I envision this. And I think it will help us as well, help inform our budget allocations. It'll help us inform, be a better system, because then as a community, we understand what we hope to achieve collectively.
So, do we want to adopt any of these particular goals as written? Or do we want to add this to a meeting in 2 weeks and put down a different written goal, come to the table with something different? Jamie?
So question regarding tonight and a little bit of process. Understandable that the superintendent is frustrated because we have not finished the spec report back to him or sat down with him after our last meeting. So apologies to you for that. I really think, and you guys have been at this, we've been at this for hours today. I really think we need to come together as a board in executive session so we can finalize, or at least get to a, you know, hopefully a finalized place on that part of it. I think that we could probably approve a few of these tonight, but I think until we finalize the spec report, or the superintendent's evaluation report, I don't know that we can do the rest of it, right? It's kind of like cart and horse. I think probably to Jenny's point, it's a little cart and horse. So I really think we should try to come to a consensus on when we're going to get together prior to June 30, because we owe that to him to finalize. Thank you.
All right, I agree. Does anybody have a problem continuing our schedule and meeting the 4th Monday? So it would be the 24th. In which case we will come out of that meeting with goals going forward.
I can do that. It's fine with me. Can we set a time limit though? Time goal,
We will be done by 7:30.
even if it's just in my mind, I appreciate
24th.
Mm-hmm.
My dentist appointment.
I appreciate you doing that for today.
I won't be done at the dentist until 5, so I could be here as soon as I could.
And just do 5:30, no more than 7:30. Okay,
I won't be able to talk, but I'll be here.
that's all right. We'll give you a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You have a date.
That just needs to be the board. It does not need to be any other staff or.
I don't think so. I think it just needs to be us workshopping until we're done.
Okay.
Are we removing the board rules from? Are we tabling? We're tabling? Do we need a table? We need to
If you
table
guys
that?
have never approved it, that's fine.
You never put it up as a motion.
We did.
Okay, we did a
I'm
motion.
just going to ignore it off
Just,
the
okay,
agenda.
so it's just on there,
The action is
discussion.
to set a date.
Okay, take it down.
Okay, so thank you. The CEP program, we heard from Lori about what it is. There are some potential pitfalls for our district. We have Chris Young here who could speak to how
So-
this would affect his population.
So, when Jamie was, BA in our district, we did move forward with CEP at Charlestown Primary School. I believe it went for 3 or 4 years. It was very beneficial for feeding students. However, it did have a direct impact for a number of years following related to grants, especially Title I, Title II. So there are benefits and there are challenges with it. When starting the program are the benefits. When it is up are really the negatives that really start affecting the school. So just something to weigh. Feedings, currently we do have free breakfast. So they are children getting one meal a day, no matter what. And on top of that, we do have a great application that the majority of families fill out and provide that information. And if they qualify, we'll be able to partake in some of those benefits related to that program. So it is the board's choice. I've seen it both ways, and it was just CPS for a long time. It seems like there are other schools in our district now that could partake, so.
So we have CEP at Charlestown Primary.
Have in the past.
In the past.
So what are the downfalls of not participating in this program? You lose money.
Of not participating, if we don't participate in the program, we're not able to offer free meals to all within the building.
To all.
Yes, everybody. So right now, you can get free meals if you submit your free and reduced application and you qualify based on income levels. Or if you're direct cert because you receive other benefits through the state. This would participation benefits every student who wants to eat in the building.
Jamie, you have a question? Or
Yeah,
comment?
Lori, would you remind me, you said there were 3 schools?
It's Ackworth, Charlestown Primary, and Sarah Porter.
So are we able to? So here's my question / thought comment. Are we able to approve it in Langdon and Ackworth and not Charlestown?
Yes, we are. Langdon would, if they didn't submit the documentation, we could lose just under $73,000 worth of funding. And Ackworth would be 27,000.
And one quick question I had was, do the individual administrators of those buildings, are they getting to weigh in, like what the real-time impact could be, like Chris was saying about future title funds? I mean, I feel like us making that decision and not conferring with the administrators is.
I haven't discussed it with anyone at this stage because I wanted to know what the direction the board wanted me to go.
Are there
Because
kids
we
that
can't make any
need food that are not getting food? I mean, that's kind of the dumb way of asking this. Are there kids that need food that are not getting food right
Yes.
now?
Yes,
Okay,
in every building.
and is that because they're not filling out the free and reduced?
It could be because they didn't fill out the document and it could be because they don't qualify.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in some instances, they do qualify, but the parent says, no.
Right.
So I want to ask the administrators, are there children who are not eating when they're in the building? No, you don't want to answer, or no, you don't want to? Or no, there aren't any
I would
children.
say that there are, I mean, I haven't monitored it, like probably I should have been, but I would say that there's some kids that are not eating.
I would agree. However, at the same time, I keep an account open for myself that if a child comes with without a lunch or something like that, it goes under my charge and I deal with it at the end of the school year. So kids are eating, but at the same time, this provides it for everybody in the school versus just ones that qualify.
It also provides, I mean, so when a parent does very closely monitor the account and, it provides the option for the child to eat without there being ramifications for parents. And I don't know if we have that in this district, but I have seen that elsewhere.
So I hate to sound like I'm tired, but so maybe that's what the problem is, but. So I know that in the past, in Ackworth, we have lost our title program because not enough people filled out the forms. And so then we did like this big campaign to fill out forms and explain to people that, you know, it was private, nobody was gonna hear about it, all of those kinds of things. And I know the people of Ackworth, and they're very similar to the people of Charlestown and all of this area. They're very proud, and they didn't want to say that they didn't want to say that they needed something and that other people didn't. But we did get. At that time, we had a lot of artists and they were, you know, the starving artists, so. And they would have periods of the year where they would have income and other times of the year where they didn't. And so they were able to fill out the forms, and it wasn't legitimate. They did qualify. It would be, so I guess my question is, if we do, what are those acronyms, what's the acronym stand for? I'm sorry.
It's community eligibility, is it participation? Provision?
Oh, so it's, the provision is that it goes for the full community as opposed to just those students who qualify.
Income qualify, yes.
And how does it, say for the town of Ackworth, because I know those folks. If we did go with this, then we wouldn't need to worry about if people filled out or didn't fill out the free and reduced forms, and we would still get title money?
No.
Are they together?
So the problem is, I can't ask them to complete a free and reduced form if we are offering the CEP program. If we're offering, if we're offering the CEP program, there's an alternative form that they can voluntarily complete that would be used in lieu of a free and reduced form to count towards the title monies.
Well, that's really tough, because the nice thing about the title monies is that that does go for everyone, but you have to have enough of the free and reduced forms filled out.
Right, and in this instance, it would have to be the free and reduced or the voluntary income information.
Yeah, people are not gonna wanna just give their income information for no reason.
My concern is
Yeah,
that
they are not gonna
haven't
wanna do
had
that.
enough time getting them to complete the free and reduced when there's an actual benefit.
Yeah, they are not gonna
related
wanna.
to it.
I know our folks. Joe, your folks are the same.
I don't
So-
understand, that's the point that I don't understand at all. Because, whether we go with this or we don't go with this, it makes no difference to either school in Alsted. 3 schools you're talking about, none of them are in Alsted.
No, but I mean, if we wanted to go with CEP, I could loop, I think I can loop Vilas in. Without,
Because there's kids from Ackworth and Langdon going to Vilas.
yes, well, because it's all formula driven and percentage based, and so
But then they lose their title money.
potentially, it's a risk. It's a risk.
We don't use money for middle schools.
Oh, it's not for middle school, okay, sorry.
I know it's not gonna happen tonight, but I'd like to hear from the administrators what the protocol is if you know that there isn't a kid that's not eating. I mean, I have a hard time believing that any one of these guys don't go straight to the school counselor or, you know what I mean? Don't we have a community liaison lady now too? I mean, I just wanna make sure, I wanna say no to this, but I also don't wanna be like, oh, well, if kids aren't eating, then I have full faith that you guys are taking care of it when things are happening. I guess if there's something else we could be doing to help, I wanna know about that too.
I think from my perspective, we do have students. I do agree with you that there are resources within the building.
Yeah.
To address students not eating. However, when you look at, some of the debt that students get into, when you look at their balances at the end of the year, that's when you start realizing, some of the other factors that are associated with some of the families'
Right.
challenges. And providing that food is incredibly important for nourishment and for schooling itself. So that's that balance. It does affect things. When we had CEP at CPS, the biggest challenge that I heard as an administrator was, why would one school get it and
Right.
North did not get it? And that created a very imbalanced situation for a number of years until people understood what that meant.
And
So
for
we-
families that have kids in different age, yeah. I
We
mean,
had people trying to move in just so that they could be in that situation. From North, it is that important to people,
Yeah,
so.
Does the free and reduced, I'm tired too, I can't make words to it. Does it affect adequacy aid?
It does not impact base adequacy aid, but it does impact the differentiated aid that is added on top of base adequacy.
So potentially that could decrease if parents weren't filling out the extra form.
And that's where I'm talking about the maximum exposure. If we, just looking at these three schools, the maximum exposure is just under $1 million. With Charlestown, of course, being the most significant, at like 800,000.
So we could.
I'll be frank, and when I, got onto the consultation call with the finance department, Mark looked at me, he's like, you're gonna be killed. He says, your communities are gonna be killed with this.
So the other document you mentioned in lieu of the free and reduced lunch form document, what does that look like? Is it simple to fill out? Is it something?
it's a government form.
It's a voluntary form, and I think it was created by the state, and I don't have that.
And it's not
just
easy?
handed out to everybody.
Do we have time to bring more information to the board at the next meeting?
Not
Once
really.
they speak?
No, I need to tell the state by the 20th. Yes or no?
Can I ask a question of Lori?
Yes, please.
Lori, so I know with free and reduced, parents can do that online. Can they do that form online? The other form, or is the form from the state, or is that paper copy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Jamie has a question.
Jamie, you wanna add something?
Kristen, repeat that question. I couldn't hear it.
So the question that I asked Jamie was the, free and reduced application can be done online, but the form that, the form that Lori was talking about, the one from the state, I wondered if that was online.
So
That
it's
was-
normally, whoops, sorry, I got a neighbor building something here. Can you shut that, please? Normally it's done with a paper copy, but you can make it into a Google form on your own website in order for people to have an easier access to do it. The last time we did it, it was years ago, and it was only, the state would give it to you via paper format. But it's easily convertible to to a fillable PDF on your own website.
Just wonder if that would make people feel more comfortable, because they would know that they could fill that out. like online as they could do the free and reduced and just submit it.
Does the free and reduced submit to the district or straight to the state?
To the district.
But then it's a little bit more confidential. You're not actually handing a form into someone.
Or waiting for your kids to drop it on the floor?
Right.
Okay. Chris?
I guess maybe a question for Lori, is this get us a 3-year commitment or a 1-year commitment?
Four.
4. So what we saw pretty drastically is first year, you saw quite a few papers come back. But as you progress through the CEP process, the paperwork that was optional, quickly dwindled. And by the time you exited the program, you were in a situation that you were in pretty much a deficit.
Yeah.
Because you were not having accurate numbers when it came to free and reduced lunch.
Okay.
So if we go with the 3 schools, 52% of the meals served would need to be identified as paid, so it wouldn't be fully subsidized by the government. If we were to add Charlestown Middle and Vilas, 58% would be paid.
Shelley, I can't see you on screen. I just want to check in with you and see if there's anything you wanted to add.
Lori, could you run down how this affects our adequacy aid one more time?
So, so adequacy aid is determined by a base amount. And then there's, what they call differentiated aid for different categories that, builds on top of that base adequacy amount. And, one of the most significant categories of differentiated aid that we receive in our district is based on the free and reduced, applications and number of applications that we have. So because we cannot collect free and reduced applications for buildings and students participating in this program, that automatically decreases our free and reduced applications. We do have the opportunity to solicit these additional, these alternate forms. And if they're received, they're counted as though we received a free and reduced application. But if based on our free and reduced numbers for let's say it was like 23, I think. Our maximum exposure, and that's the maximum risk. If we didn't receive a single document, it's in $1 million. If we received, I had this information, if we received 25% of the alternate forms, our risk drops to about 700,000. If we receive 50% of the alternate forms, we've got an exposure of about 450 for those 3 schools. And again, it's up to you as to, you know, what level of risk do we want to assume? Or do we want to, we have this opportunity each and every year. And if we were to defer it for 1 year, and revisit it next year, that gives us more time to look into, well, even to find the data and from during COVID and look at the data and, you know, what we receive for documentation, what were our participation rates, because usually when it's free, the participation rates increase. So if we can project our participation rates, then we can project what's the additional cost to the district, both in lost support and revenues from the state, as well as the subsidy that the district would need to provide to make the food service whole.
I'm more comfortable with that meeting. I just don't feel like I have enough. I wrapped my head around this yet to really understand it, to vote yes for it or vote no. I would much prefer to wait till next year.
Justin Casarino, I would like to speak with them.
We appreciate that, Justin. Go ahead.
There we go. Thank you, everyone. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand, so I'd ask Brendan. So I just wanted to be able to answer Jen's question about, how we do things for Walpole, and, if there are students that are not eating or forget their meals or anything, every single student is able to go through that hot lunch line, get a hot meal, and then we have organizations in town that donate every single year to support, if students need help with purchasing their meals and everything like that. So we kind of do what Chris does and keep a tab of everything, and then we use those funds to pay for the students afterwards. And then we also work with our school counselors and everything to help with outside sources and everything as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Jamie?
Yeah, I believe that was true of most all your schools, and I think that you'll be surprised how many of your, or it used to be, how many of your food service workers, they know who the children are and whether or not they're eating or not, and so do your teachers. I don't believe that we probably let many kids go unnoticed and unfed. And I would happily make a motion that we do not participate in CEP for these 3 schools for this upcoming school year, and maybe investigate it a little further. That's my motion. And then my comment is that we would just be sure that in our schools that we keep an eye out and take care of our kids.
Second Jamie's motion.
Before we go to a vote, yes, Ms. Quinn.
I just wanted to add for the middle school in particular, and we weren't on the list to qualify for CEP, but if we do revisit this next year, middle school kids, it becomes almost a trend of not eating because the kids next to them aren't eating for one reason or another. And so we can identify who is food insecure and who's not food insecure potentially, but it is a little bit different in middle school than it is in elementary school, because then you have the social factor more strongly there, that kids are less willing to self-identify that they're hungry and that they need a lunch. They rather just go without completely, even if you offer to pay for it or give them something, because they don't want to stand out from the crowd. And if everyone, we have far more participation in breakfast than you might expect, or than I believe our numbers represent for free and reduced, because breakfast in our building is free. So you see the kids getting breakfast, because it becomes a trend, if that makes sense. Like eating food becomes a trend because everybody eats food, versus lunch where it is based on the traditional free and reduced model. It's more, we have more kids who maybe get a little lost, and it's not because of lack of staff identifying it, it's because of the peer social piece of it.
Thank you.
The future consideration.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Yes, you did. Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? All right, Jamie.
I hope I'm making the right decision, but Teague, yes.
Yes.
Jenny, yes. Sarah, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Shelley.
Yes. Did you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, clearly you can see that we struggle with this one. So we've got some work to do.
Is there any way that we can go back to the state and tell them to stop screwing up like this?
It's the federal government.
Oh, this is a
We
federal.
could go on the CT trip.
It's like, I mean, they offer you free lunch and then they take something else away from you, that's crazy.
Although the New Hampshire, there was legislation that was proposed that would have provided free meals, and it was voted down, so
Yeah, I know.
2 years in a row,
Yeah, I know, I know.
so, yeah, so the state.
But yet across the river, everybody's got
Yeah.
free lunch and free breakfast. Because the state just said, gee, that worked so well in COVID, why don't we do that?
Yes.
Joe, I have a school in Vermont. It doesn't work that great.
Of course it doesn't.
all three of these? Okay. Need to make a motion to amend the agenda. Don't shoot me.
And then.
No, let's shoot him.
We need to add, to talk about the surplus. We need to talk about the AP classes at the high school and the negotiating committee.
That will be very short. I just all of a sudden realized that we didn't have, committees on this agenda, so I just need to add that.
I will not second
You'd be great.
that. Okay, I'll second it. Let's just get it over with.
Can we have a second to that motion, please?
Okay,
All right. Jamie,
Teague, yes.
Shelley,
Joey, yes.
Joe,
Jenny, yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. I'm sorry, I've got to stand up. I cannot believe we've been sitting here for this long. We might have to have a walking meeting here for a moment. Okay, so, the first new item is our current surplus and what to do with that if we would like to allocate some of it to things. For those who are leaving, thank you for hanging out with us for this long. Feel like I'm totally Friday. Jamie, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so just to move us along very quickly, thank you for Lori for putting together that great list. We did many years ago discuss generators, and it just didn't make sense back then, and I don't feel it makes sense to me now. Sorry. There are other ways to deal with that. I would like, though, for the board to contemplate using some amount of what we're staring at to pay for some buses, because that benefits everybody. It benefits the sports program, it benefits the kids back and forth to school every day, it benefits the student activities, it benefits trips, you know, and it seems to me that the cost of those things are fairly distributed and almost kind of match how it would go back anyway. So I think Lori had 2 numbers on there for buses. And I would like us to at least contemplate doing something, because paying interest when we have this kind of cash flow that we're staring at doesn't make sense to me.
To add a little bit to that, I do believe it also is a good stewardship of the public's money to save them nearly $100,000 in the long run. Every opportunity we have to do so, I think, is important. Does anybody else have a thought on that?
So, I'm reticent to spend this money just because I don't, have the information about how it's going to, affect the millage rate. If we return it all versus if we return whatever this number is, 800, reduce it by $800,000. I'd like to know that, comparison before I just say, yes, we have excess. I'd like, because $3 increase for Langdon is it's a big increase in your current property taxes. So I would like to, in terms of public stewardship, I'd like to, reduce some of that as well. So I'm not gonna support anything until I have more information.
I would like to clarify that if we do not have it determined by June 30th, we don't have an option. So it just, our meeting on the 24th, give us time to do so. Just sign that. Do you think we could have that kind of information available to us that day? How does everybody feel about that?
I would feel much better talking about it then, because, and having a little more information. Yeah.
So having the millage rate with returning everything. And then having the millage rate, but paying for the buses. I think those are the only 2 I would support. At this point, anyway.
We did do the 84.5, right?
We did that already.
Yeah.
That's taken care of.
I would like at this point to advocate also for the vape detectors here at the high school. It's district-wide cost. It goes in the same way it comes back. I do
Put that
think
one into.
it's been a problem, and it's such a small amount and could make a huge difference. So if we could use that number, 13,000.
I'm good with that.
And I think everything else then, are we good with letting just slide?
Shelley has her hand up.
I don't even see you on there, Shelley. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I second what Kevin is saying about the mill rates when it comes to the buses. And I double second what you propose with the vape detectors. I think there needs to be something done up at the high school there. I have gotten multiple complaints from kiddos that they just can't even go into any bathroom without being inundated with vaping. So I think it would be nice if we could help those guys out as well. That's it.
That's a middle school problem too.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Maybe we can start at the high school and see how they work.
I think that's a terrific plan. Okay, then good. I think we can move forward with that. We don't need any other sort of motion. We'll take it up then. Let's move on to AP classes at the high school.
Look how quickly she came to the table.
Hi.
He's like,
Hi.
Please don't mind me standing.
No, I was here to answer questions.
Okay, so can you give us a little background about what's going on and why this is a concern?
So every year we do, we offer everything that's in our program of studies. Sort of, except some things like AP, we run every other year, or we try and flip flop them so that we have more interest in the years that we do run them. But we look at student interest. What are students interested in taking? And when we look at what we're not seeing a lot of interest in, every year we cut specific classes because there's not enough interest. If there's not enough interest in musical theater, not running. If there's not enough interest in, other classes that aren't AP, we cut them with no issue whatsoever. Just for that year, they can come back if interest is there. So we have a couple of AP courses with low enrollment. And I was given some historical information about, the board saying 6 and run it for AP. So the last time, let's say AP biology, an instance of AP biology was run at 6, it melted to 3 after add drop period. And that's pretty typical. So currently in AP biology, we had 5. It went to 6. There was originally 9 requests and it went to 5. 6, we got 6. But there's already one who's gonna drop it. So I am wondering what I should do. As I was asked to give numbers of classes multiple times this year, I am asking for some advice. As a building administrator, I want to offer as many opportunities for students as possible. And running classes every other year is more than, it's what most schools do. We want to make sure all those juniors or seniors, they get a chance to take it. If we do have a senior that needs to take it, we have other things that we can offer, or other ways to get that AP credit, VLAX. Some people don't like that. We've been in contact with Keene to see if we can bus over to take an AP bio class. We have lots of different ways. They can even take the class on their own, and then we'll test them. We'll buy the AP test for them. So if there's a kid who's not being served in that year, we can work with them. But if we have a science teacher teaching 3 students for an entire year, that is not a good use of resources in my mind.
And we certainly did hear from our student rep this year that there were classes with too many. And so when you have that disparity, it makes it really hard on the other end.
There's some inequities there when I have 30 kids in one class and another teacher is teaching 3.
Has this been communicated? I mean, because I 100% support everything you just said. and I know working in school, you have to say things 5,000 times, so I get it.
No.
I think it would be beneficial for you to state exactly what you just did in a message, or maybe it comes from the board or Dr. Spence to parents about why, because I received an email and I was like, I don't know, I'll talk to Dr. Edmund, I don't know.
Yeah.
That is I think a reasonable, people might not like it, but that's as reasonable as people can get. I think if parents understand, look, we've got 4 or 5 other things that we could potentially pursue should your student want to do this AP class and we can't do it. Please know that it's not just shutting the door and there's nothing else.
Right, and the parents that I have spoken to, I've had good conversations. with
And
them
I
that have
assume,
called
yeah, I
me.
assume that is the case.
Yeah, and I haven't answered all the emails, I've received like 4 or 5 emails. And I know that you have received some too.
Yeah.
Once they saw
Right.
AP biology pulled out of there. And there's other AP courses too that I have to look at. And we're running against a time crunch now because we're, trying to set things for next year. So I just kind of want to know the will of, what you want me to do. If you want them to run with 3 kids, they'll run with 3 kids.
I don't think that that's a wise use of resources, but I think that the idea of sharing the load with another district, there must be another district that's going through the same type of thing, and if we
I
get
gotta-
together with them,
I gotta tell you, when we called Keene,
yeah.
they were like, please, we can't fill our AP bio class. Nobody wants to take it. So AP is really,
Yeah, I mean, if nobody's taking it around here, then you're.
they're
out of
great.
luck.
They're great. They are very rigorous. The tests are very difficult.
Mhm.
Ivy Leagues really like to see them. But we also offer dual enrollment courses, which the majority of students go to. And one of the other reasons why our AP bio is not filling, we're offering physics for the first time in 3 years this upcoming year. So that's another science class that
It's
is
filling up.
filling up,
it's filling
because
up,
kids
yeah.
wanna take that.
Yeah.
It's not that we wanna pull opportunities away from kids, absolutely not. We're gonna still try and offer these opportunities, but we have to do them in a way that works for our schedule and works for our teachers.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of schedules,
Yeah.
I know that we also heard that part of the problem is students just can't fit it in their schedule because of the block schedule. It makes it difficult to pick a class, to get that. Have you been looking at modifying the block schedule to do a hybrid schedule or?
Not as yet. I do have, I did put a call out for a scheduling committee for next year to discuss some things. That was not one of the things I was thinking about, but it might come up in discussion.
And I,
Yes, please.
as a member of the original block scheduling committee. And I built the very first, schedule on block scheduling. And it has been, the issue of kids not being able to fit things in has been the issue since
Yes.
forever.
Yes.
And, we found that it is an issue with block scheduling to fit everything in. However, when they go to college, they'll do the same thing because
Yes.
colleges are built on a block schedule. You're done with your course at the end of that semester. And you have to, and you can't fit everything in, and you have to figure out what you're gonna take, and you have to make decisions. And I know that this has been and I'm really good friends with Lisa Renaro, and she, so I heard, the continuing saga of the block schedule. The benefits of the time spent with students, I think is incredible for block scheduling, having worked on both of them, so. But I also think that it is, there are other alternatives for students, as you've been saying, and that running a class of 3 students, in terms of, when you have other classes that are overflowing, that it just doesn't make sense.
And I appreciate the creative solutions that you do have, especially if it worked with Keene and they could go on the same bus with
So
CTE.
the counseling office is really the, the people I go to, ask, what can we do? So, and we're always gonna find a way for these kids, but if they're juniors, they're certainly able to take that AP class in their senior year. So. And I
So it's
think,
affecting 3 seniors,
no,
so they're not seniors this coming year.
there's one senior that it would affect. Which we could certainly work with one senior to make sure.
Have you checked with Stevens too, in terms of their?
Yes, we would, search out any,
Yeah.
we research it.
Yeah. So are you still looking for a number from us?
I'm looking, if I start at the semester with 6.
Yeah.
It's going to melt away. It always does. You start an AP class and there are some kids who are like, ooh, no, thank you, and they are out.
What about 10?
10? I think that's way more reasonable. I even take 8. Like, I mean, just what is well, I want them to run. I know that they're, I want them to run, but I think that we have opportunities to run other things too. If they don't run every semester, there's a lot of opportunities, so.
Jamie, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I had to find the button. I think, I might be wrong, but I think this is part of a policy that we have that may need to be changed. I almost, yeah, I think it was in writing in class sizes policy, but I'm not positive. I could be wrong. Okay,
So sorry.
that's all right. So we can absolutely change it, update it, do whatever, but we need to do it via changing the policy.
So, the policy only reads that the minimum class size, it says all courses with an enrollment below 6 students will be submitted by the superintendent of schools to the school board for approval. So that's the minimum class size.
So we would
it's
need
just
to rewrite that.
You can run anything with
As
approval.
long with your approval.
Right. Did that answer your question?
Yes, because my question was, I don't know what policy we're applying anything to.
I
So
see.
thank you. Yeah, I found it. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Seer, does that answer your question, or do you want to add to that?
That's what I was going to say. We have a policy for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
What I'm asking is, I do not think that I should run classes that small. So I will be I'm just going to say, I will be submitting some classes to you that I'm for you to approve. I don't know, if I don't believe they should be run at that small, do I still submit them for approval, or
I think it only comes to us if you absolutely feel it needs to be, and there are students who absolutely need it. So
That's what I would.
that's okay.
Right.
I think that the consensus is that it is your discretion,
okay.
and unless it falls between that and you want us to approve the
Okay.
change.
So under 6 has to come to you for approval
If you want to continue to run.
if I want to continue to run it, or that year.
Right. I don't think it says you have to run it at 6. So if you want more defined numbers, then that would be a policy change for us where, like, if you think it should say any classes with enrollment beginning below 10 won't run, then that's a policy change. If you want a definitive, something like that.
I don't think as a small school, we need to do that, or that's my humble opinion, because there are some things that, I don't know. I think 6 is fine if it's 6. I'm just, okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Then we are good in the.
It's below 6, not 6. It's 1 to 5.
With their 6. Okay, the last thing on the additional agenda is that, we need to form a negotiating committee. We've been invited by the support staff to negotiate this fall for their contract. The 3-year term is up for negotiation. So is there anybody who is
She gets her hand up.
interested and available? Perfect, Jamie, you're in.
So I don't, listen, I have 4 negotiations on my job, at my real job. So I don't mind helping, but my question would be this: what are have we discussed with them any kind of time frames? Like, does it have to be during the day or can it be at night? I'm happy to serve on this and help. Absolutely, because I do have a lot of experience with it. But I would have to do it at night and it would have to be certain days. So if they're not open to that, then I can't, other than to maybe review and provide guidance.
What I can tell you, Jamie, was that the last time we did this, they were all at night. 3 years ago.
I know we are looking, we've been invited to a meeting for Friday, the 14th, that I don't seem to have in here, but I believe it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Could easily request that it be later in the day. Not that one.
So I'm in Maine and I'm not driving back on Friday, sorry.
No, that's fine. I think it would just be a meeting to start setting, what the timeline looks like. It certainly wouldn't be sitting down and having all those deep conversations yet, or making any offers of any such thing. So all we need to do, I will be going to that. I intend to be there. So if you would like to join, do we have anybody else who would be interested in negotiating this year?
Well, I'll say this. I was on the negotiating team for the last teacher's contract, and I was on the negotiating team for the last staff contract. If you don't like the way those contracts came out, don't pick me.
I think you're in, Joe. I think you're in.
I nominate Joe.
All right, so
Joe it is.
Joe, Jamie, and myself.
And wait a minute, then you said something about Friday at 4?
But also the message from Karen, who was here earlier, and I apologize if you're listening, Karen.
I was wondering why she was here.
Get to this earlier, that please let us know so we can reschedule at any time when all members can be present if we need to do so. We do have
Well, I'm free on Friday after 1:30.
okay.
I'm
Matt
thinking it
said
would
he-
be nice if we could reschedule, because that's a really short time frame to find out about. If we could reschedule for the Friday of the week of June 24th, or a different date that week.
Okay, I'll send that reply and I will CC you both in.
Okay.
And we'll show a good date. All right, fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right.
No, we have 2 non-publics.
We what?
We have 2 non-publics.
Oh,
You have the
okay.
treasures.
Yes, we have the treasurer
The treasurer's report's back with you.
with me.
Make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Hold on, we've skipped admin reports. I just want to acknowledge those who sent them and that we read them. Thank you very much. Happens.
I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Any discussion? Jamie,
See, yes.
Shelley,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Jenny,
Sarah.
Yes. Yes.
Melissa, yes. Thank you very much.